So groove in the moonlight, just me and you tonight. Now move your body with mine, and we gon' dance until the sunrise, until the sunrise. Until the
It's Monday the 2nd of March, 7 o'clock. Welcome to night 2 of Surrey Decides Question Time. And tonight, it's all about activity. It's all about students that are doing things. If you didn't catch last night, it's still available, preserved for all time on YouTube for you to watch. And if you don't know the format, what happens is we go upstairs to Rubix, we listen to some debates, and in between I'm joined with by some university luminaries who will bestow wise knowledge upon you that you will hold for all time, like a precious stone that will pass down from generation to generation. We also have Dan Jacobs here as well. Now, activity is hugely important to the student population. We have almost 10,000 memberships of clubs and societies. Everything from mahjong to rugby to lacrosse to video games to go-karting to golf to yachting to rowing to Harry Potter. Some people are members of just one club or society, and our keenest being, we have one anonymous student who is a member of 27 clubs and societies, and this student has spent almost £700 doing that. So activity is hugely important. Lots of students love to do lots of things, and while they're talking about it, we'll be slobbing out on the sofa, drinking carling and having dominoes. Right now, we're going to start with a debate for the activity zone, so it's time to go up to Rubix to hear from our candidates.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Surrey Decides Question Time 2020. Chairing the debate for Activity Zone, please welcome Noah Swanson.
Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? Okay, that's great, yeah. Excited for night 2? I think we have some space. So if you're watching online and want to come and join us, you'd be more than welcome. So this is the debate for Activity Zone on Activity Night. So the whole evening is themed around the Activity Zone. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our candidates to the stage. Great. So, to start us off, the candidates were asked to prepare a 45-second answer to the following question. If I can find it on my notes, that always helps. Introduce yourself, tell us why you're running, and one campaign or event from this year. This is not the right question. There we go. Introduce yourself and why you're running, and how you plan to balance your time as a part-time officer next year. That probably sounds more familiar to you. So, if we start on my left, Amy.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Amy Obi. I currently study accounting and finance here. My current roles are the Wellbeing and Inclusion Champion for Women's Rugby. I'm also the Vice President for Woke Surrey. And why I'm running, I believe that diversity is like one of the biggest issues, and I would like to be representative as a person of colour within the Students' Union. And in the ways I'll balance my time is by making lists, doing tasks in order of priority, and adding any other task onto that list, and maybe making some changes as well if necessary.
Great, thanks Amy. Brendan.
Hi everyone, I'm Brendan. I'm a second-year international relations student. My experience in societies is that I'm on the Politics Society, and then I'm the treasurer of American Football. I'm running because these societies have really enhanced my experience at Surrey. I wasn't sure how I'd fit in as a new country. In a new country, you might be able to tell I'm not from here, but the social experiences as well as the discipline, work ethic, and competition in the sports side of things have really enhanced my experience here. I'm running because the issues that I've talked about in my manifesto have really resonated with people, and I feel like the issues that I brought up about diversity, about bringing more speakers to the campus, and about membership costs have found an audience in the student body.
Great, thank you very much. Elliot.
Hi, my name's Elliot. I'm a first year econ student. I do American football and dodgeball here at Surrey. The reason why I'm wanting to be on the activity zone is because I want to bolster the positive effects that sport has at Surrey. So I know a lot of freshers, being one, that felt like left out after Freshers Week, felt like they couldn't join a club. So I really want to basically improve the positive effects by letting people know more, and then maybe having like events more often so people feel like they can join in. It's not like if they've missed Freshers Week they can't play anymore. And then the reason why I think I can manage my time well is because after speaking to people in the zone and speaking to our VP activity currently, they give me an idea of what it takes. So if you manage your time well, I feel like it's very possible.
Great, thank you. And Michael.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm a third year business management student, and I'm the ex-president of the Ballroom and Latin Dance Club. I want to be part of the Activity Zone Committee because I want to help improve the individual development of club and members of the clubs and societies around campus. I feel very passionate about this work with being in the Ballroom Latin Dance Club, and also I want to help promote the clubs and society activities that help support the development of the skills and activities of especially new members who may find it intimidating to join a club at first, but I feel that if we promote the activities, we can help people join clubs and activities around campus. And yeah, I thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you all very much. So now if we move on to some manifesto questions. Brendan, one of your points is a subsidy for expensive membership payments. So to start us off, what membership payments are you referring to there?
Well, particularly for sports teams, you have quite a lot of costs coming in at the same time. So you might have to buy new equipment, a new pair of boots, a pair of gloves, things like that. Then you have the insurance necessary. So if you don't have a gold team, membership, you need £40 for insurance. Rugby is quite expensive, it's £60. American football is quite expensive, it's £75. So the cumulative effect of all of these payments due at the same time makes it really difficult. I find it terrible when people say I can't afford to play sports. I think that is something we should just never hear out of a Surrey student. At the very least, these costs should be spread out throughout the semester. That's more manageable if you can pay a bit at the front, pay a bit in the middle, pay a bit at the end, and then for those who genuinely can't pay, I'd like to introduce some sort of subsidy for that.
So kind of, for those who can't pay, what would your criteria be?
I'd have to discuss with the union about that, but if they find that spreading the membership costs throughout the semester, they can't maybe afford the gym membership or can't afford the insurance, which is necessary. You can't play without insurance. What happens if you get injured? Then some sort of threshold level that the union would set would say, below that threshold, we'd be willing to subsidize a membership payment.
Great, thank you. Elliot, one of your ideas is to introduce Club of the Month. How is this different, or does it complement the existing Club and Society Spotlight? And what would the criteria be there?
So at the moment we have like a spotlight, which is great, which shows certain clubs off every now and again and encouraging people to go to it. But my idea would be like a competition of sorts. So clubs at the start of the year would opt in, and then you have societies compete against each other to improve the amount of people that are actually playing, and give you a reason to play. Because, for example, if it was like business versus economics, for example, a lot of people would be like, okay, I might give that a try. And if they enjoy playing it, they're like, okay, let me join the team, for example. So it'd be more to complement, because what we're doing now is great, but we can only build off it and make it better.
Great, thank you. Michael, under the individual development section of your manifesto, you mention about providing committee opportunities to new members. If you could just kind of talk me through what you mean by that.
Well, what I mean by that is that I want to encourage clubs to make sure that to get individual members places on the committee, so have like a new member's position on the committee. Being a part of the Ballroom and Latin Dance Club committee, being president of the club, I found that it was really beneficial as well to the new members, and I really want to work with the clubs and societies to help in individual development of their members, and I feel a good way of doing that is by providing committee opportunities especially to new members, so they can get involved in the management of the club. But this is, I want to say that this is more encouraging clubs to do it and working with clubs and societies to make this a reality.
Yeah, so I guess just kind of building on that, AGMs happen once a year, so what do you kind of want to do to combat that, to enable those committee positions to be available?
It's more I want to encourage the clubs and societies, I want to encourage them to have these, like, it's more or less having meetings with them, having a meeting with them and seeing if there is an opportunity for this, and also there is other opportunities as well, especially in other different areas, so it doesn't have to be as well new members, because it's individual development of everyone in the club. I want to make sure that everyone's having a good time, and I want to make sure that the management positions are open, so it's more or less meeting with the clubs and societies, also putting forward suggestions and having just communication back and forth. That's what I feel is communication.
That sounds great. Thank you. And Amy, you mentioned that you want to run a society's cross-club sports day to operate separate to varsity. If you could just tell me about that and how you plan to kind of resource that.
So yeah, that comes under my diversity point. I feel like societies and clubs, there's a bit of a disparity between the two of them, and as to be a part of the activity zone would mean that I'd like to be able to bring them together. And varsity is great, a lot of people do get involved in it, but after looking at some of the statistics regarding diversity, it seems that a lot of people actually aren't a part of a club or society. So maybe running like a sports day, which will be a little bit more fun, sometimes maybe less competitive for some people that may not want to be a part of like a sports team and play on Bucks Wednesdays. Yeah, that would just be another idea for that. To facilitate that, it would have to be working with the sports park, maybe other facilities that are on the university campus here at Stag Hill. And yeah, maybe just speaking with VP Activity as well and just seeing how we can make this happen.
Great, thank you. Now we'll move to a question from the audience. Do we have any? We have our current VP Activity right at the front.
Hi guys, Pop's been up there as well. It's terrifying. As you may know, being part of the zone is obviously really, really important, but working alongside the other zones is also something that's really, really crucial. So if you were to be elected, are there any particular policies on your manifesto that you think would work well to collaborate with other zones? If there isn't anything, is there anything you'd like to work with the other zones on?
Great. Do you guys get that question? If we start on my right.
Yeah, so my second policy is about having more guest speakers, and I think this applies to industry and sports. So my housemate's brother, he goes to Lancaster University, and he just had a speaker come from the White Helmets, which is a civil society organization in Syria. And he was the founder of that society. And I thought that's just fantastic to have someone who's, you know, experienced a pivotal moment in world history, been involved firsthand, and to have university students exchange ideas with someone of that caliber. This applies to sports, this applies to politics, this applies to business, this applies to science. I think really any other zone I'd be willing to work with. It's not only limited to just having athletes come in.
Great, thanks. Michael.
Oh yes. Well, I feel like my under my diversity policy, my diversity part of my manifesto, I talk about working with the widening participation and outreach departments, because they set up events such as set up taster events for people, and I feel that they'll be very good in setting up, working with the activity zone to set up events to raise awareness for diversity issues in the activity zone, and especially with clubs where people feel like they can't join because they're not the type of person. I want to make sure that sports is for everyone and no one feels like they can't do sports. And then therefore I really want to work with community zone as well on that, because I feel that that working with the community zone, we can raise awareness for these issues, and it'll be nice to make sure sport is for everyone, and the community zone, they can help us with that as well, I believe.
Great, thank you. Elliot.
So I'll be really looking forward to work with the support zone to look at tackling male mental health issues, because there's a big stigma around male mental health, and for example, sport's been shown to have a huge and positive impact, so it would be promoting sport more often and trying to be more inclusive. So one of my points was about representation, so that means everyone. So I would be like looking at targeting certain societies that we may see like low turnout from, so it's kind of best there, because if you don't target them, they won't know what's going on.
Great, thank you. And Amy.
Yeah, I'm the current Wellbeing and Inclusion Champion for rugby, and as well as running for the activity zone right now, I do understand that mental illnesses are quite a big issue in diversity in university, and especially invisible illnesses where you might just walk past somebody and you wouldn't be able to tell, and a lot of people are really, really good at hiding it. So I'd love to work alongside the support zone, so that, especially with newcomers, even if you've been playing for a long time, but newcomers especially, they can be really, really nervous. And I just really want to work with the support zone, because it will help to encourage other members, new members especially. And as well as this, again, about diversity, 79% of club members are white, and only 3% of club members are black, which is quite a big difference in statistics. And so working alongside Voice Zone, and maybe with some liberation reps as well, this will be really good to help to encourage people of colour to be a part of sports and societies.
Great. Some really interesting ideas for collaborations there. So a rapid fire question for you all. Why is the activity zone important to you? Why is it important to the students of Surrey? Amy, if we can start with you.
So I strongly believe that you're not just at university to study your course. Could be kind of ironic, but I still think it's true. I think that when you're a part of a club and society, it also makes you more employable. You develop some skills, and you can also do this through Employable Me. And I think that sometimes you can get really, really stressed with university, especially exams. And I think if you're a part of a club and society, it's such a great way to just wind down and to be out of the environment of studying and your textbooks and the library, because we all know that when it comes to midterms and end of semester exams, you're at the library. So being a part of the sport and the society is just a great way to be out of that environment, I guess. Yeah.
Great. Elliot.
So I'm running because when I had the interaction with my flatmates, I spoke to him for half an hour to an hour. He felt like he hadn't really found his place at Surrey, and I think that's part of it was his lack in sports or societies. So that was really the turning point of me, and I thought, okay, well, there's got to be more people like him. And after speaking to more people, they're like, yeah, after Freshers Week, we felt like we didn't know if we could even join anymore. We felt like we'd been left out. So I really want to make sure everyone maximises their Surrey experience by joining a sport, because it's what made me enjoy being here so much.
Great. Michael.
Yes, I believe that the activities around campus are absolutely amazing. They're an amazing experience. Talking from my personal experience as well, I went to thinking that I could never be a part of a sports, I could never do sports myself. Then joined up with Borman Latin, and then I'm still doing it today. And I feel that that's given me this experience, which I love, and it's developed me as a person. And it's something to take a mind off of studies as well. This what it makes it so important on campus, why it makes it so important to so many people. And I believe that because I personally really want to help the activity zone to improve, so that we can make this a better experience overall for everyone.
Yep, thank you. And Brendan.
Well, I think societies sort of contribute to all aspects of your university experience. You have the societies which celebrate identities, ethnic identities, religious identities, national identities, which can express your personal identity. You have ones which are more intellectual. If you're studying one thing and you're interested in another thing, maybe you don't have time to do things you're not involved with that in the classroom, but you can be involved with it in a society. And then you have the sports teams, which promote discipline, work ethic, competition. I think they just contribute to all aspects of you as a person. You get to be on the committee and develop your leadership skills, your social skills, your interpersonal skills. I think they're, outside of the classroom, they're the biggest contributor to your development as a person at university.
Great, and then a round of applause for all those answers. And now my favourite bit of the debate, we get a countdown timer. If you want to grab a paper and pen, and then what I'd like from you is your dream team for the activity zone. So that is Society's Exec Chair, Team Surrey Chair, and VP Activity. Through when you're ready. Okay, if you guys want to reveal your answers for me. And if we start on my left, shout out.
Talia for VP Activity, because I play rugby with her. James for Team Surrey. And Ellen for Society's Chair.
Yep.
I would say Mason for VP, kind of for dodgeball, James for dodgeball as well, so I'm giving Team Surrey. I couldn't actually remember what the last one was, so I just kind of threw down what I'd write for the zone, but yeah.
Great.
I put down that you should vote for whoever supports your points of views. Like everyone has their different points. Everyone wants their policies, and it's best to support the person that you believe will be the best for what you believe in as well.
Yep.
Well, for VP Activity, Alex, Mason, and Maya have all been really supportive of me, so I'd be happy to work with one of those three. And then, for the other zones, I'm happy to work with anyone who supports my policies and if I support their policies.
Okay, thank you all very much. A huge thank you to the candidates for coming up here. It is incredibly scary. A reminder that you can look at all these manifestos online. Voting opens tomorrow night after the presidential debate. I'm now going to hand over to Alan downstairs in Pundits Corner before we move on to Society's Chair after the break. Thank you very much.
I heard too many words.
That was it.
have a substantial knob to control the volume. There we are, that's the candidates for the activity zone. So, if you don't know the layout of the union, every zone has a number of part-time officers, and in the activity zone there are 3 part-time officers. So out of that gang, there are a total number of 3 positions to be elected. However, Ron reopened nominations, none of the above is a candidate in every election. So, I'm joined with the venerable Baroness Alexa Hughes, former VP Activity, Dan Jacobs, Hive Manager, and Gavin Baker, Head of Surrey Sports Park. If anybody knows about activity, it is these 3 here. Right, so what are the things that people were talking about tonight of activity? We were hearing about, again, mental health, we're talking about employability, welfare and diversity and inclusion and how good it was for you. Much less conversation. There was people touching a little bit about how much it cost and things like that. Somebody has to buy these pens, but much more about the benefits you get outside of your standard degree for activity. Alexa, your whole career was dedicated to activity. Now you're in the private construction sector. So, what did you gain from your time here, and how's it helped you post Surrey?
So, when you go into the world of work, you've got to work with people, you've got to be able to work in a team all the time, you've got to be able to lead, you've got to be able to manage, and you've got to be able to do it with a smile on your face. So in terms of getting involved with public society, I believe that when you come to university, you find your people and you really hone all those skills through getting involved.
Gavin, I don't know about you, but the last time I employed members of staff, when we're looking at CVs, I've got to admit, I never look at degree classification. I don't know about you, but it's always the additional information.
You know what, when I sit down with young people, whether in the organisation, students, I see the same thing.
Yeah, literally the first 10 minutes is going to be not.
Yeah.
So for 20 minutes. If you think someone's better at reading language, do you bring it on?
And it's not just what appears in the CV. It's the, as you said, Alexa, it's the skills that you gain that manifest in real life. You know, it's the confidence you get. And actually, now Dan, you've been through this. The students that are taking part in this are doing a great job. Even those who are not elected are going to gain hugely in confidence from doing this. I mean, you've done it, and you deal with students every day in Hive.
It's terrifying. It's anywhere else. Completely different. You have no idea how people can react. And you're voting on your morals, what you believe in. You can only hope that people do the research beforehand and know that they've chatted to the right people, president, permanent staff, and get the right ideas. You can potentially have a country from 1,000 people watching you live, if not on repeat. Yeah. People love finding mine back in 2014. When you said this, I look back and go, I was terrified. Yeah. So a huge congratulations to the guys behind me. And like you said, no matter whether you win or lose, it's still going value.
Just the experience of sitting on a stage with lights on, talking into a microphone, you know, you can't get that in any other part of the university. Last night we were reflecting a little bit on the long view, Gavin, and the changing trends. You've not been here 5 minutes, have you? We've seen a few things. I mean, what would you describe in a nutshell as the main difference between student life and approach to clubs and societies today versus when we were young, before you had a beard?
I think reflecting on this, we didn't really think we were manifesto for that. I think in terms of those that do speak on club sport as a sport, there's almost a professionalism about it. I think that always impressed me. I'm always impressed, even more so in the most recent years. But also one thing I'm interested in now is the changing trend. Universities are so they describe organised sport and activity for the last years in particular. The movement for well-being and physical activity for health benefits. It's interesting, it's not been mentioned as much as I thought it might be, but I do think that's the general moving forward is the benefits that physical activity can do. I know that Obi mentioned it in her one. Amy did around the benefits for stress relief and stuff like that. But I think that's where the trend is going to go. I think organised sport will always be there, and people will always be engaged in that. But the engaging those that perhaps aren't engaging at the moment, not doing physical activity, I think that's where the future lies.
That's something that struck me as very different. Campus at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, at one time would have been an absolute ghost town. Now, people are out jogging, running. I mean, Alexa, your year was marked with we were just talking about Kelly's introduction of a mass 10K on campus. I mean, that's huge. And a lot of the stuff that you did was mass participation activity, mass movement, and people just actually doing things, be it Latin and Ballroom or Couch to 5K or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that the sports park have been a massive driver in that as well, in terms of when I started 7 years ago.
There's nothing wrong with that.
When I started all that time ago, it was club sport, and you were either in the team or you were out. And if you were out, then there was other stuff you could do, but it wasn't on the same scale. There wasn't, the Monday runs. There wasn't all these amazing, and absolutely hats off to the clubs that have been putting it on. They're the ones that are really driving it. It's so self-driven as well in terms of, I kind of disagree with a lot of the candidates that might be saying that you can't participate in sport if you don't have the money, because you can turn up every Monday and go and run with the athletics club. So I think that there's always going to be more expensive clubs, but in terms of getting involved in activity, there's so many options now that I just didn't have when we started.
When we next go upstairs, we're moving on to societies. Obviously, the activity zone covers everything, but we're moving into societies, and then after that will be the Team Surrey chair, so sports clubs. Societies, a huge breadth of activity. Our biggest society currently is VetSoc, twice as big as the next biggest society. It's an academic society. And we have got, I'll get the list up, huge diversity. I walked past the Mahjong Society a couple of weeks ago. It's just amazing. There's a whole room in management sitting, chapping away in Mahjong tiles. What was the standout societies for you last year, Alexa?
So while I was VP, the Chinese Society were incredible. They were like their own union in a way. They had sort of their VPs, as it were, and absolutely huge. And I think it's so great because their president at the time really wanted their society to be more involved with the union, which they hadn't been previously. And so we had them volunteering at events a lot, really getting involved with collaborations with other societies. So that was the big standout one for me that year, and I think they did get Society of the Year that year. There's always going to be the sort of bigger ones. VetSoc, obviously, because the vet school's been building, is sort of coming to a head. It actually had massive financial issues while I was VP activity. So I think that because of the turnaround of who runs these societies, keeping a society going is not, not a small thing to do. And so I really respect all of those. I think they're all on the committees, everyone that's running in
Yeah.
this year. So I think if you can run that.
Being on a committee is quite a challenge. What sort of things would you like to hear from candidates looking to progress societies next year? In a nutshell, Dan?
In a nutshell, I think there was a really good essence of either collaborating with other zones or collaborating with other clubs or societies. I think some of the best successes we've seen over the years is when they don't just focus on their singular society as a whole or their singular club. It's actually how can we do charity events with others, how can we do volunteering events with others, how can we do socials with others. Both competitive and, if not more importantly in this sense, non-competitive. There was a mention of a sports day, I think, which we did it, I think, a couple of years ago. Massive success. People love the idea of it just being a bit of competitive because people like a little bit of competition. But when you're doing a sack race or egg and spoon race, and you don't have to be a certain society or certain club to do that. So the idea of collaborating people together a bit more on a really social level, I think, will go a long way.
Gavin, what sort of things briefly?
Yeah, I think to follow on from Dan, a bit like what you said, Alan, in your intro, that they're not mutually exclusive. Many of the students are participants in various different societies and clubs, and actually that sort of creating that sort of oneness, that sort of togetherness is probably a strength. I think that's the strength of numbers always is in that. I think the fact they're sharing that sort of the activity that you do, really.
Well, that's what we think down here. Let's hear what the candidates think. It is time to go to Rubix and hear from those who have put themselves forward for the position of Society's Chair.
Chairing the debate for Surrey Society's Chair, please welcome Cameron Qureshi.
Hello, welcome back. I think that was a good first debate. I think everyone did pretty well and it went pretty well. We all thinking the same? Good stuff. All right, well, I don't think I have any announcements to make, so I'm just going to get straight into it and invite the candidates for Society's Chair to the stage, please. Thank you. Welcome. So, as you guys know, but I'll explain to everyone in the audience, we start off with a pre-prepared question for the candidates. They'll have 45 seconds to answer. If they haven't answered in 45 seconds, I will stop them. The question they were asked to prepare for was, introduce yourself, why you're running, and one campaign or event this year that you would improve. So, we'll start on my left with Amy.
Hi everyone, my name is Ami or Amy. Some of you might know me. This is my actual name in my passport, just so we don't have any confusions. I'm a second year biomedical engineer and I'm also the president of MECSOC and Archery. One event that I would really like to improve from this year was the Society Showcase. I think it's a really good idea and it's really sad that Active Fresher is such a well-known and long-awaited event while Society Showcase didn't have much attendance. The way I would like to do that is by promoting it more over social media and potentially trying to have it happen in Freshers Week, not during teaching time, because I think that would increase participation.
Brilliant, thank you. And Ellen, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Ellen. I'm a first year politics student. You'll have to excuse my voice, it's not normally this deep. But this year I sort of realised how engaging and empowering the union can be. I set up Society, so the Young Greens. And so what campaign would I like to achieve? And so that would be the sustainability campaign. So the union chose sustainability as their campaign for the entire union for the entire year. And the community zone has done a really good job of implementing campaigns. And I, for one, I really know how hard a campaign can be. I mean, I've campaigned for the Green Party for 2 years. You could say I know how to lose a campaign. That's fine. So I really think the activity zone can be the way that we can implement that into the union and really empower students. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to get straight into some manifesto questions. Ella, I'm going to start with you. You've proposed a new societies and sports calendar system. Can you clarify what you intend to include on the calendar and how societies can get involved?
So what I think we should do is we should completely update the calendar system by including all of the events and activities that societies and sports do. Because apparently if you want to look for an event, you have to go onto the union website or their Facebook page and search for these societies and find it and then find out what they're doing or contact them directly. But I think if we want to be really inclusive and engaging with every single student, we need to make sure that we are being completely transparent in the sort of events that societies are doing. And obviously that would be including sports as well, so that everyone can get involved in anything that they want to do and not feel that there are any barriers to participation.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, with there being 155 societies alone and then you want to include sports clubs on top of that, do you think creating a calendar for all these people is like plausible as a part-time officer role?
Yeah, I do think it is, because my study politics, we only have 8 contact hours a week. So I do have the time, and I wouldn't be going for a role like this if I didn't think that what is on my manifesto, I couldn't achieve it. So I think it's better to have too much information on a website than too little.
Okay, brilliant. Moving on to Ami, you've kind of preempted my first question. It was to do with Society's Showcase and improving attendance. So maybe you could reiterate the points you've given for that, but also tell us if you think it's a good idea for it to be during Freshers Week, since there's so many events on during Freshers Week already.
I think it's a good idea to be during Freshers Week, or if not possible, at least in a weekend. This year was on a Wednesday, and I know a lot of sports clubs have their first training sessions on Wednesday, and it's a shame that would stop people from actually attending. So yeah, the way I would try to achieve this is, as I said, by promoting it a lot more on social media, advertising it a lot more at Freshers Fair, and making sure that societies tell their potentially new members that this thing is happening and that they should come along. And as well, I think the union should advertise it as the society's equivalent of active freshers, because that's basically what Society Showcase is. I've had a lot of people in my year, so who are second years now, they should have seen it 2 years in a row, who told me today that have no idea what it is, which is not ideal. And it's a shame that societies who actually, for example, dodgeball, I think is the easiest example. They were here ready to play and show everyone how to do it, and no one actually came to see that. So it'd be a really good opportunity for potential members to see what happens.
Okay, brilliant. And just to follow up on that point as well, this has been an event that's been run for 2 years and that's had minimal engagement. So do you even think it's worth continuing this event?
I think yes, because all the societies that were here this year were really keen on being here. I think promotion and timing is the issue that's making engagement be a bit less satisfactory. But I think it's definitely worth it.
Great, okay. Right, Ellen, just moving back to you. You've spoken in your manifesto about separating inclusion from well-being. So just very quickly, that would forge 2 separate roles, yes?
Not necessarily. So I think that we need to keep the well-being element of the inclusion. I want to clarify that I think it's a really good role, but I think if we need to move forward, it needs to be separated. I think that the well-being champion should be kept separate. It's really good to have that member of the society and the committee who's got that fountain of knowledge. If someone's distressed or has a personal problem, you can go to them and get directed to the right part of the union. But I think that inclusion should be incorporated into the entire committee. I mean, what happens if that one person isn't present and who's been trained in inclusion? I think the entire committee needs to be trained in inclusion. I previously worked in NCS, so National Citizen Service, as an inclusion specialist, NCSAS, and I basically learned that inclusion, you can't really make excuses for it. It needs to be something that everyone is trained in.
Okay, so you're talking about keeping the role of well-being and then having inclusion as a training thing for a lot of different roles, but training something that comes up every year at Surrey Decides. So do you think it's feasible to have every single committee position, including unique positions to each committee, being trained in this role? And how would you go about doing that?
Not necessarily every committee position. Maybe you could just stick with initially just the 3 main signatories and see how that goes as a pilot sort of system, and then see if you can progress it onto wider roles. Or maybe you could just train all of the members of the committees. You know, you could do that in a lecture theatre. I mean, inclusion is quite a hard thing to train people in it anyway, because you have to adapt it to different people and different sort of needs. Things like invisible disabilities, 95% of disabilities are actually invisible. So I think we need to really train people on how to deal with that and how they can adapt their communication, their needs, and their society activities.
Great. And Amy, you've mentioned in your manifesto that you want to complete monthly tracking of societies. Can you tell us what this would involve and how this would have a positive impact on societies?
Yeah, so I've come up with this idea based on our experience in MECSOC. We had a really big issue with our treasurer, but we were kind of afraid to go forward and tell the union that he was basically not doing his job up until November, because we thought that's going to impact the way the union sees us and kind of cancel the achievements that we were taking. But I think this is a really wrong way of looking at things. And by offering this kind of monthly track system, you kind of give societies and their committees the chance of saying what they would need and what they're doing at the moment. I haven't really come up with a proper system at the moment. It's going to be obviously discussed with everyone else in the zone. But some of the questions that I was thinking of including were, what have you done in the past month? What are your plans for the next month? And how would the zone be able to help you implement everything that's happening?
Okay, so you say you want to run this monthly, and it's a point I've already made, but there are 155 societies. So do you think this is an unachievable goal, having 155 societies come in to meet you every month?
It's not going to be on a face-to-face basis. It's going to be an online form, and even though it sounds a lot, I think that's definitely doable because the questions are not going to be long. And I think it also helps committees keep track of what they're doing monthly. Some of them lost track of what their plans are, and this would kind of improve that, I hope.
Okay. All right, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into a kind of different section of this debate now. We're going to go into a bit of a game show kind of style. So I've got a very lovely assistant that's going to bring up a prop for me. Joel, are you ready? Are you That was unbelievably elegant. Thank you so much for that. All right, so pretty straightforward. We've got to spin the wheel. Lots of categories on there. I'm going to spin the wheel. I'll only explain what the category is when it comes up, so we're just going to get straight into it. Yeah. Tense. General knowledge. Okay, that's fine. We'll go into general knowledge. So you should have some paper and some pens in front of you. I've got 3 general knowledge questions that I'm going to ask you, and you just need to write down your answers for them. That's about it, really. So the first question is, name the CEO of the Students' Union. Great. Okay, second question. What is the founding year of the Students' Union? I like this atmosphere we've got going. This is good. Just any guess will do. And your final question is, how many union officer positions are there currently in the Students' Union? I should probably cover my answers, actually. Got some linear equations going on over here. I don't know what's... All right, cool. So can you guys just lift your answers up and show the audience if you can? So for name the CEO of the Students' Union, I'm assuming you both got Alan Sutherland. That's great. Great. The Lord of Disco himself. We all know and love him. Founding year of the Students' Union. What did you put, Ellen?
Put a range.
Okay, so you put 1900 to 2010. I like it. And 1980. Okay. No, you know what? Credit. So the founding year, according to Alan Sutherland, is 1968. I'm sure, sorry, fact check will have a go at me for that, for getting it wrong in some way. I don't know. And how many union officer positions are there currently on the Students' Union? You put 29, and you've put 24. I'm afraid the answer's 26 for that one. 26 currently. So yeah, good effort though from both of you. Right, moving on. We're going to spin it again. We're going to do a few spins throughout the evening. What's in the box? Yes, this is what we all want. Cool. See how eager I was? I jumped straight out of my seat. We actually have a box. We ran out of budget for props with the wheel, so the box is absolutely terrible. So without looking into the sides, please, all you need to do is put your hands into the box and write down what society you think the object in the box relates to. I'm going to promise you now, nothing alive inside of the box. You'd really struggle to hurt yourselves with this. It is, you'd be absolutely fine. Do we have a volunteer to go first?
All right.
Oh, okay, straight in there. All right.
Oh, it's fitting.
Yeah, I was going to hand you the whole box. You can go from both sides if you'd like. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds on that. All right, okay, good stuff. So just write down what society you think the object links to. Now, if you want to just do one hand, because we've done one hand so far. I'm not sure. God forbid. Okay, so do you want to write down what society you think? You can guess the object if you like, but I'm going to try and open it at this point. Nice. Okay, so I will start with Amy. So, what object do you think is in the box? I'm going to take this away from the mic.
Fluffy toy. So
Okay.
can I assume?
Yeah, just take your guess.
Pet sock, because it seems like an animal.
Okay. Having to rip the box here. And Ellen, do you have any guesses?
I mean, yeah, I didn't get pet sock, but I feel like it was a hippo. But now I'm struggling. I'm like, so I agree. It's pet sock, but that was Amy's answer. So
Well, you can have the same answer, and you are both indeed correct. This was Paul the Pug.
not a hippo.
Yes, very heavily featured. We'll leave him at the front there, just for everyone to witness. I think so many people were hoping that round would come up, so I'm very glad it has. And now I have a box just lying around. All right, we'll do one, maybe two more spins. See how we're working for time. Oh, yes. Okay, candidate questions. This is an opportunity for each candidate to ask the other candidate a question of their choice. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to figure it out, but if someone does have a question and wants to volunteer to go first, that would be amazing. Anyone? Okay, Ami's going to go first. Go for it.
What's your favourite event organised by the union this year?
Good question.
What was your favourite event hosted by the union this year?
Good question. I think I'd probably go for... that's a very good question, actually. I'm struggling. I'm having a mind blank. Maybe one of the society takeovers or something. Can you come back to me, actually?
Okay, do you have a question for Amy?
How would you propose to implement the day in the life of societies on Instagram? So would there be like a prioritising system or something?
It will work in the same way as a society takeover happens, but I feel like it hasn't been encouraged enough, and there are societies who have weekly training sessions or weekly events, and they would probably like to showcase how a day in their life happens while they're preparing for those events and everything. It will be on a first come first serve basis, because I feel like currently Surrey Socks, the Instagram Surrey Socks, doesn't have much input of its own. Luke has been amazing at sharing everything that we're tagging him in, but there's not much input of their own, and I feel like that would help a bit more of a general society's kind of way.
Brilliant, okay. And I'm going to chuck back to you for Ami's question, which was what event was your favourite from this year from the union?
I think, not necessarily my favourite, but I think the most important one was actually Shag Week, because I think sexual health awareness is something that when we get to university, you tend to forget about it. It's not as, like when you're at school, it's sort of, you have an education system, and when you get to university, it's not as directly imposed.
Okay, brilliant. So we may come back to the wheel if we're lucky, but for now we're going to go to a quick question for both candidates. Same question for both of you. Which of your manifesto points do you think will have the biggest impact on societies and why? So we'll start with my right, Ellen, whenever you're ready.
I think I would choose my third manifesto point, which is about inclusion. What I'd like to do is collaborate with the liberation committees and work an inclusion training programme into, first of all, society standing. So what the idea is, each society standing, you would have a different liberation representative talking about how societies can incorporate minority groups that they represent and make them more comfortable to actually join and get involved in societies. Secondly, then we'd move that on to sort of developing an actual training programme. So we'd pilot it through society standing and then develop a more inclusive training programme.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. And Amy.
I feel like having committee skills training before summer and not only in October would really benefit committees and therefore help them help their members. Because for us in MECSOC, when we actually got all our training in October, it was a bit late. Half of your actual position time is already done by then. And I feel like it would be a lot easier for committees that are made only of new members if they got a bit more of an insight of what they're expected to do and how they should plan all their summer ahead to make their life easier once they come back to uni. So yeah, I think having committee skills training before summer would help committees plan better and therefore have a lot more organising structured events for the members once they come back.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, well, I think we should probably go to the floor for a question, if anybody has one, if they'd raise their hands now. Oh, we've got one right over there, if we could just get the mic sent over.
Hi guys! So every year tens of societies go dormant. So what will you do as Surrey Society's chair to try and reduce the number of societies that go dormant?
So the question was, just as Society's chair, how will you reduce the amount of societies going dormant this year? We'll start on my left with Amy.
I hope that's one of the things that my monthly tracking system would help prevent, because we'll get a bit more of a specialised kind of insight into what societies are doing and how are they developing from month to month. So it would be a lot more easier for the zone and the union to keep track of any potential issues of societies going dormant and then offer to help and support them.
Brilliant, thank you. And
so in my manifesto I've got that I would hold drop-in sessions for committee members to help with admin, so that would be a really informal thing. You could just literally come along with any question you've got and try and help you with admin, because often it's a bit of an admin overload. So I'd like to ensure that societies know how to help, that we are there to help them. And secondly, that's basically it, just drop-in sessions to make sure that societies feel that there's definitely support there.
Brilliant. Okay. We're running quick on time, actually, so we've got a bit of time to go into another game. We're not going to spin the wheel for this one. We're just going to pick, because I want to do picture round, so we're going to do picture round. So there should be 4 logos coming up onto the screen shortly. I'm going to give you guys some paper copies. I just want you to write down what are the names of these societies' logos. Oh yeah, there is a countdown clock. I probably should have said that. Okay, and you just stop writing. So, if you could both lift up your answers, but I'll just ask you to say which one you think it is. So, top left.
Gliding.
Yeah, gliding.
Gliding, that is correct. Top right. Kiss. Kiss, that is correct. Bottom left.
No idea.
Is it the Leos?
It's not. It's the Sri Lankan Society, actually. And bottom right.
Pole fitness.
Yeah, pole fitness.
Pole fitness, that is correct. Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Right, so we do actually have one of the rounds that was on here. I'm just not spinning the wheel because we'll just end up getting the same categories. Was a question from Luke Harvey, who is the current Society's chair, who I believe is somewhere in the audience. So we're going to throw him a mic and ask him to just give a question to the candidates.
Hi guys, really well done so far. So yeah, I do have a question. So if elected as Society's chair, you will attend weekly activity zone meetings where societies will come along asking for money. You have a budget as the activity zone of around £13,500. A lot of that money is allocated to other things. So yeah, the question is, it's basically like a scenario. So a society comes to you asking for £500 to help maybe subsidise a ball they're doing. And there's no right answer here really, but you can either, I'm asking you guys, would you part fund it, fully fund it, or reject it completely, and maybe give an explanation of why you decide that. Is that clear?
Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so we'll start on my right with Ellen with that one.
Okay, so I think first of all you need to discuss with the activity zone members that are already there. Ask the society what funds they already have in their account, and ask them what, if they haven't got the funding that's already in their account, what have they used that funding for, and then discuss will they be able to raise money throughout like ticket prices. And if they are able to sort of maybe raise their ticket prices, or if they're collaborating with a different society, could you maybe decrease that funding? But I do think it's really important that societies feel they can hold the events that they want to, so definitely encourage them to hold it and help in the ways that we can. If you can part fund it, I think part fund it as much as you can. Fully funding possibly, but I think it's better to get all of the information about what they've used their money for in the first place.
Great, thank you. And Amy.
I think this would be a very case-to-case kind of answer. I'm tempted to go for partly funded for most of the societies because I think that's only fair on everyone else and how the general budget is spent. I think if a society is aiming for a big event such as a ball, they should be ready to have their own financial input into that. And yeah, I would probably encourage them to have a partly funded kind of sponsorship and discuss with them on how are they planning to get the rest of the money, what are their members getting out of this ball that's happening, and see, maybe advise them if it's actually worth it and if they're ready to have such a big event as a ball.
Brilliant, okay. Luke, just as current societies chair, you know best. How did those answers fare? Very quickly, if you could, because we're quickly trying to wrap up, so just in the quickest way you can.
Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. Generally, those are really good answers. One thing I would say as well is that we generally don't fund balls at all because we encourage societies to come to Union Ball. So that was one thing that I guess you missed, but other than that, great answers.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to end on one more question, and that is, who would you like to be your VP activity this year? So if you could just take 30 seconds, we'll put the countdown clock on, write down who you want, and yeah, so countdown clock whenever it's ready, if it is. It's not. Like to both reveal your answers. So we've got Mason, Pick the Stick, and Talia. Okay, brilliant. Right. Well, that concludes this question time, so I'd just like to have one more round of applause for the two candidates joining us up on stage right now. A reminder that all manifestos are available online. And I'm now going to hand you over to the Lord of Disco himself and the CEO of Your Students' Union, Alan Sutherland, in Pundits Corner. Thank you.
Right, there we are. That's the candidates for Surrey Society's chair. Very different kettle of fish from Team Surrey. And it's fair to say that there's a really different culture between clubs and societies. It may be that you have to pay for clubs, you have to turn up, you have to train, there's the whole bucks element. Societies are extremely different. Alexa, what's your experience with working with societies?
So anyone that is going for the activity zone, Surrey Society's chair, VP activity, and even Team Surrey chair needs to appreciate the fact that societies are so diverse. So if you're saying, I'm going to put this event on for societies, my question is always, can every single society get involved with your event? And that's what they need to think about. They've got these manifesto points. They really need to think, will international societies get involved with it? Will the active societies get involved with it, as in physically active like dodgeball? Will the religious societies be able to get involved with it, for example? So when you're thinking about societies, you're literally thinking about the whole student population.
Yeah. The other thing, and this was a bit of a theme in this conversation, which was about the expectation in societies. And I think what is tend to be forgotten is that societies are passed on from generation to generation. And it doesn't really matter what they're like today, you know, in a few months' time, it'll be a completely different committee running it. And you can have the biggest society on campus and you can be dormant. And this is some of the challenges you know, in running a society and managing a society, we'll come to the list in a minute. But Dan, I know we're kind of flogging this a little bit, but it's this juggle of time. You know, students are very time poor, working part-time, studying hard, but the demands in running a society is getting harder.
It's enormous. It's someone said last year it's like a part-time job in itself, really, the amount of hours you've got to put into it. And I think with the new volunteer platform as well, you can really start to dig into the numbers a bit more, so how many hours we invested in it. Even down to, you know, how do you create an agenda? How do you run a meeting? What's the expectation of being a president compared to being the treasurer or compared to being the social sec? You know, and then how do you work together as a team if you're not actually a team player, but you want to get people on board, but then you've got 400 members, you know, how do you make sure that they all feel that they've got a voice? It can keep you awake at night, you know, in terms of trying to think of new ways of getting everybody engaged and on board. It's an enormous job, and if you're someone that likes to hold a lot of power as well and sort of hold on to it all and you don't delegate very much, it does take over your life. And someone said earlier as well that it's in addition to your degree, being able to get involved with something, but you have to find the balance it's a really fine balance between having enough money to survive, doing some sort of being a part of a club or society, maybe doing some sort of volunteering, being part of Employable Me, getting your degree. It's a lot to juggle.
And that's where the Hive can get involved.
And that's where we come in. Where's that pen, Alan?
The pen? Well, the sun doesn't
Sponsored
shine,
by
Jacobs.
the Hive.
Sorry, Hive pen. Badminton was your thing. What societies were you involved in when you were at Surrey?
So I did a bit of dodgeball when it was a society, before it was a sports club. And I
It's
didn't
not
really...
a sports. It's a sports club now.
No, it's not a sports club.
Well, you just said it's a sports club.
No, I said when it was a sports club.
And
it
then
had
it
a
went
change
back.
for a bit, but I was part of dodgeball for a little bit. Other than that, I wasn't really. It was clubs, so tennis, badminton, squash, anything with a racket.
Okay.
Tried a bit of ultimate frisbee, but it was giving something a go. I couldn't play ultimate frisbee to save my life, but I thought I'd give it a go because it'd be a good laugh. And touch rugby, I'm scarred from rugby as a child. Absolutely, I have scarred to the core. But then I remember someone getting me involved with touch rugby. It was great.
Gavin, broadening out a little bit, we've just completed a landmark survey called Being Well, Doing Well. And it took part in a number of universities, and this isn't widely publicised amongst the student community yet, and it's something that people are going to be hearing more about. But the survey, for those who filled it out, I mean, we had about 1,700 students that filled it out, and it was talking about well-being and stress, and it's something that you and I have discussed in the past, is that, and again, taking the law view, if those at home watching don't realise what is now the Ivy Arts Theatre was the sports centre, you know, and it's quite incredible when you look at it, that tiny little box. I mean, you couldn't even fit a couple of SSP squash courts in there. I mean, the SSP gym wouldn't even fit in the Ivy Arts. And now you know have this huge facility. But we were having this conversation: is how do we move out? We've concentrated on bucks, improving bucks, and you know the teams have done an incredible job of getting top 30. What's next? And so, what's the challenges for SSP? Your location, your sort of commercial situation. You know, how can SSP permeate itself more into the campus culture? That was a hugely long-winded question. Hopefully I've given you time there to think of an answer.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, you know what? It's really prevalent because one of the questions we've been asking ourselves recently is actually where do we go and how do we get there? And a lot of that's exposure and us. So winding back even 4 or 5 years ago when the previous chief executive Sportsbook came in, we had a meeting, and one of the first points I made to her was that it'd be nice if people saw the Sportsbook as not just a building, that we did stuff. We weren't just this building, and I think even now we're still trying to get out of that mindset. And just after Christmas, we were handing out some free gym passes, I think, to students and staff. And the membership manager said, "Oh, it's probably not good use of our time." So that's a great use of our time because actually people aren't seeing us because we're just the other side. And I think that's going back to that classic. If you want to find us, and like any service, people will find you. It's how do you sort of approach these people as sort of contemplатors and not even thinking. And I think this is where the roles like this and the VP activity is so important about finding actually. What's the best way of engaging with students? Like, how do they want to hear? What do they want to hear? How do they want to know about what we do? Is it okay for it for things to happen and people would just turn up? you know, or do we need to put specific marketing things in place or sessions in place? And I think that's the key for me. Sometimes we try too hard, and a classic thing back in the Ivy Theatre days with the late Barry Hitchcock, we used to say, you know, at the time we used to say we put on very well organised things that no students turned up to, and the students used to put on badly organised things which loads of students turned up to, and it was like, if only we could get that right, and we still haven't.
Now we put on badly organised things that nobody comes to. It's the best of all worlds.
Like the colour run, wasn't it? In terms of the change of movement, though,
Yes,
isn't it? It's
yeah, absolutely.
Sports Park trying to help support and own an event,
Yeah.
but like you said earlier, Alexa, based on mass participation and just getting people to. If you just want to be covered in paint and walk for a couple of kilometres, this is an event for you and get some free sunnies out of it. But it's getting the Sports Park's name attached to. It's not all about elite facility, 50-metre Olympic pool. It's all the other stuff that goes on underneath.
It's a non-sport stuff, actually, to some extent. It's that non-competitive sport stuff, and I'm sure we'll get onto it later around the term Team Surrey, but again, around, you know, what are the connotations around the words we use, around how accessible are those things, how inclusive are these activities.
We're going to go to the debate for Team Surrey chair. Gavin, explain, for those who don't know, exactly what Team Surrey is.
Good question. So when it was started, almost 10 years ago, well, just after Surrey Sports was started, it was supposed to be an umbrella organisation, that it was just a brand that encapsulates everything that Surrey Sports Park does, the Students' Union does, and represents the university, and that was our way of pulling it all together, really. And it's worked quite well. Well, I think we can see that it's worked quite well. The discussion now is actually, what does Team Surrey mean? Does that mean Wednesday afternoon competitive sport, or does that mean physical activity? And it's probably time to. Probably a challenge for these new people, the new students that come in these positions to review that alongside us. But that was it. It was to try and bring us all together, I suppose, and have a representative brand.
Team Surrey is a hugely important part of university life. Even if you don't take part in Team Surrey is funded to the tune of over £1 million by the Central University. It is a huge part of student activity. That is the Domino's delivery. So while we scoff pizza, we'll be hearing from the candidates for Team Surrey chair. Over to Rubix. Hello.
I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess every superhero need his theme music. No one man should have all that power. The clock's ticking, I just count the hours. Stop tripping, I'm tripping off the power. 21st century shit.
Chairing the debate for Team Surrey chair, please welcome Chloe Hinchliff.
Hello everyone. We all having a good time? Who's been your favourite candidate so far? Wow, okay. Well then, shall we welcome our candidates for Team Surrey chair? Fabulous, now we have everyone. Okay, so we're going to start off with the set question. So please could you introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running, and give us a campaign or event from this year that you'd improve. And just a reminder that you only have 45 seconds.
Am I starting?
James, you start. Okay.
Hi, I'm James. I'm a second-year economics and finance student. I am also the second year running as treasurer for sailing, as well as the wellbeing and inclusion champion. And the event I would like to improve upon from this year are the intramural leagues and events that take place throughout the year. I think it's the best possible way for us to get more people involved in sport who, generally speaking, want to have a bit of a kickabout and have a bit of fun, but don't actually think that joining the club is for them. So just a bit of a casual one, get more people involved. And I'm running because I think I can bring more to this union. I love being here and I love being part of Team Surrey, and I just want to be more involved and try and make it better than it already is.
Thank you, James. Diana?
Hi, I'm Diana. I'm a second-year PhD student, but I did my undergrad at Surrey as well. So I'm running because I really just want to bring sort of the experience I have from within the union and as different part of the different zones into the activity zone and sort of provide some expertise and make Team Surrey as great as I can, make Team Surrey great. An event I'd like to improve upon would probably be This Girl Can, because we recently started recruiting This Girl Can ambassadors, and I don't think that they were used to the fullest of their potential. So that's something that could be better. There were, not that many people at the sports park, like less than 500, and I think that could be even bigger and even better. Although it's a very good event, it could be even better.
Thank you, Diana. Okay then, time to get started. So, since this is the Team Surrey, I thought we could play a little game. The Mr. and Mrs. game. Okay, so since you've both been treasurers for the last 2 years, Diana for a question and James for sailing, you'll both be playing for your clubs. I will ask you a question and you will raise the picture, hold on. There you are. And you will raise the picture for the club that you think is the answer. However, if you both give me different answers, then you lose. And James will suffer the consequences of wearing this up for the rest of the evening after the debate.
If I lose, I'll wear it during the debate as well, if the crowd would like it.
All right, we'll put this away. All right, so now you know what's at stake. So, but if your answers are the same, then I lose and I will have to wear it for the rest of the evening after the debate. Be really embarrassing if I have to wear that. Okay, are you both happy to play this?
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. So, it'll be a best of 3. Okay, first question. Which club won more awards at Colours Ball last year? This is Colours, Individual and Club Awards. There's not a countdown, you just got to raise your pictures.
Do you have to put it up? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, just hold up your photo that you have hopefully printed off.
So I had to write mine because I didn't print photos.
That's absolutely fine. All right, what have we got? You've said a question. And you've also said a question. Ah, well, this is not going well for me, is it? And that's the answer. So equestrian got 4 and sailing got 2. Okay, question number 2. Which club had a larger budget per member in 2019/20? Ooh. Oh no. Okay, and the answer is indeed sailing with £353 per head and equestrian with £203 per head. And question number 3. In the time where you have both been signatories, so since September 2018, which club has attended more sports standings? I'm going to have to wear the cone. Indeed, you are both correct. Equestrian has attended all 10, and sailing has attended 8. Okay, then. All right. So, in the last 5 years, at least 3 very serious instances have occurred while Surrey students were away on tour. What would be your input to ensuring that the safety of students and their acceptable behaviour while they're on this trip? James, you start.
I've been on tour for the last 2 years, so I've heard about these incidences, and the union's approach to last year was probably the shining example how it should happen of of punishing the club for allowing it to happen, as well as then punishing the individual members who committed these very serious and very unacceptable behaviours, which should not be acceptable anywhere in the country or in any sports clubs, university or otherwise. And I could see the only way of being able to do it is to increase the amount of union volunteers who would be willing to go along and act as almost sober marshals to deal with any kind of Team Surrey related incidents which take place as and when. So it basically can't spiral out of control like it has for the past 2 years.
Thank you, James. And Diana?
So before we go on tour, so I went on tour a couple of years ago, but 2 years in a row, and I remember the only sort of pre-tour thing we had was voting where we were going and when we were going, and then sort of a briefing from I Love Tour, and sort of in that time we could do sort of like a bystander training session or something like that, and make it a requirement for every member that wants to go on tour has to complete, for example, the bystander training. I think that'll sort of educate people and highlight the importance of looking up.
Diana, I think we lost you there. Hold on, I think Prue will get her back. Okay then. Alright. It seems that Diana is currently missing a little bit. Diana, I don't think you can hear me, but you have cut off. So we're going to move on to the next question while stage crew try and sort this out. Okay. All right then. James. All right, let's move on. James. They turned her off. Oh gosh. She's fine. I promise she's probably still there. I don't think they completely deleted her. But we're going to move on to James's questions. Okay, so James, you claim in your manifesto that Team Surrey arbitrarily cuts the budget requests of clubs. Why do you think this?
I know it's because, as the whole, people always ask for more money than they actually do get, or as they can give out to you between all of the clubs. That's just a fact of life. You put in your request, you get the money that you get given at the end of the day, which is why in my manifesto I said I want to work with any of the clubs who feel that the sports park don't quite have the expertise on how their budget needs to be spent to better suit the club, that the signatories should be able to sit down with Team Surrey and say, yeah, we're okay with the amount of money you've given us, but instead of saying that we want to put £500 towards coaching, what's the point of having a coach if you can't hire the pitch to play in the first place? So instead of then having to go towards in the later of the year, like sailing currently is, of having to move around all this money which is tied up in various sections at the start of the year, the committees can go and sit down with the Team Surrey financial department and work through where the money they want to give us can be spent in the areas that the clubs need it to, so they can better suit their members.
All right, thank you. So, with your question on this budget, So Team Surrey has been increasing their budget slightly over the year, but obviously we've been getting more and more clubs. So it started out about high 30s, and it's moved to 45 clubs in about the last 8 years. And Team Surrey couldn't fund them all. So something that had to be cut. And this was the equipment, was no longer considered for club allocations, which I'm sure you're aware of. So I think maybe this came from the cut to sailing's budget that you had.
I've not partly because of that, because I know that from personal experience, but I've also spoken to other clubs in that they've experienced frustration in that you've got people who are admittedly very good at the jobs. I could not ask for a better staff at Team Surrey. They're very passionate about what they do, but some of them have never gone rowing in their lives or competed in rugby, and being able to have the committee who know what their sport is about to work with them so that they actually know where the money needs to be spent. It's there for every club to benefit from if they choose to use it, not just sailing.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the budget allocated is based on things like competitions, where you want to enter, where you can train, as you talked about, and what kind of coaching they require, which you've also talked about. So Team Surrey, they get given these requests, and they do the best they can to distribute the money. So do you really think it's fair to say that they just arbitrarily cut the costs given to the clubs?
I wouldn't say, when I mean arbitrarily cut the costs, I don't mean in between each club, because I know they look at a whole variety of factors to make it the best they possibly can for each club for their members. But what I'm talking about is the breakdown in the budget of when you have to split your budget request between coaching, facility hire, competition, spending, and being able to then talk with them about that bit of, you've got people who don't know what your sport needs and what your club needs to do, and saying that they're going to cut this bit by £500, yet when that's the key £500 they need to operate as a club, instead of cutting it from a superfluous bit, which is ideal to have but isn't necessary to the running of the club.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to keep going on your questions, because unfortunately Diana's still a bit disconnected. Okay, so James, in what way is the university trying to make Surrey into a mini Loughborough?
Everything I've seen from the way the university advertises itself is we're great at sport, which we are. We are in the top. We're currently ranked 30th in Bucks, but everything we see is quite a lot along the lines of, this is how great we are. We've got these few bits on the sides, like free swimming, play sports, things like that. But at the end of the day, the majority of the advertising to incoming students is, this is a top-level sporting university, and we're going to cater to it with all of our various sports scholarships and advertisements towards that, whilst it's I feel like it's kind of losing focus on what Team Surrey should be about, which is the students who are playing, not all your top level ones who play for national teams, but your person who's never really done sport in their life before, but decide, I'm at university, I'm going to try something new, I'm going to go try and play football, I'm going to go do rowing, I'm going to pick up swimming, and just do it casually. But those are the sessions which suffer when those training times and training sessions get cut, usually within a few days' notice, and being told that their training times is now being given to an outside company who's spent money on that. And I feel like, the base people, the overwhelming majority of the students who are part of Team Surrey have kind of been forgotten about in what the whole vision of what Team Surrey should be about.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think Diana will be back soon, but while we wait, we're going to move on to another of James's questions. I promised there are some for Diana. I haven't just written all for James.
Oh.
Oh!
Oh.
Lovely to have you back, Diana. Oh, maybe not quite there. You can hear me? All right. Okay, so Diana, we're going to do some of your questions while we still have you. Hopefully we'll keep you for a bit. Yes, of course you can.
But basically I'm saying that when we sign up to tour, we basically have a sports channel anymore. And then we have a briefing from the I Love Tour rep. So I propose that we put on sessions such as the bystander training, and make sure that everybody who goes on tour has to complete that training before being allowed to go. So things like that, putting things in place before they start planning to go and before they actually are on tour, could mitigate some of the issues that we've experienced before.
Thank you, Dan.
Don't tell me I've got it yet. No, I'm still there.
No, you're still here. All right, then thank you very much. Okay, so Diana, last year you were a support zone member. The year before that, you ran for VP Community. And the year before that, you were a voice zone member.
Yeah.
See, I've been going through some of our manifestos, and I can't find anyone who's jumped around zones as much as you have, let alone going for all four. So I'm curious, why haven't you stuck to a zone yet? And do you think the activity zone will be any different?
So I expected this question because, but I sort of don't go into Surrey Decides thinking like, oh, I really want to be on the support zone or whatever. I kind of think about the things that I want to change, things I've experienced at my time at Surrey, and think of like the best way to implement it, and then sort of see where it fits in that zone. So even though I've run in multiple zones, I believe quite strongly in interzonal collaboration. So a lot of the stuff that I propose and want to do and sort of want to collaborate with the other zones, I'm going to need other zones to help me. And also sort of my experience from the other zones is going to help me do a better job as Team Surrey Chair in the activity zone.
All right, very well answered. Thank you. Okay. All right. Ooh, so we're gonna...
You're gonna have to bash them out, Chloe, before I get cut again.
Yeah, of course. So, Diana, you want to streamline committee training. So, we're gonna do a quick countdown timer. Can both of you please write down as many committing training sessions as you can think of? Hopefully we'll get a countdown. Got the lights. We can just count. Hey! Time. Okay, I think the people have spoken on your amount of time. All right. Okay, so, James, what do you have?
I have the Look After Your Mate training, the Leadership / Captains training, and the Wellbeing and Inclusion Champions training.
All right. Diana, what have you written?
I can't really see, sorry, but I've got a Team Surrey conference, wellbeing training, Look After Your Mate, and captains training.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm not going to read out all of the answers, but you were kind of close. Okay, so Diana, how is online training going to streamline these 7 compulsory trainings? And what kind of first aid training are you suggesting that will be different to what there already is?
So it's not so much online training that I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting having an online resource.
No! Oh God, no! Is she going to come back? So you can see her?
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay.
I can hear you.
She can hear us? Oh no. Diana, I'm really sorry we've lost you again. Just give her a minute, see if she comes back to us. Okay, I think maybe she's gone again. All right.
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, she's back!
Oh, this is so stressful.
You just gotta love Skype. It's just such good technology. It works so well. I love it.
African internet, what can we do? Sorry, the question was about online training.
Yes.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, of course we can.
Okay. So it's not so much that I want to train people online, it's that there's an online resource. So currently we have a Team Surrey handbook, but I don't think that there's sort of enough information to be able to run your club adequately following that handbook. And so sometimes I think that we spend so much time in training that I think we need to just have a few designated training spaces that teach us the basics, such as finance, running, how to set up basic things, especially the conference before the summer, because a lot of people sort of like forget all that information over the summer anyway. So a handbook collates all the evidence and all the training, all the information, and makes it very easily accessible to all committee members. The second question about first aid training. So the one we have now, you get a qualification out of it. So what I'm suggesting is very, very basic first aid training. We're quite fortunate that at the sports park and quite a lot of the places that we'll be competing at have people that are qualified to help us. But in sort of worst case scenario, we just need somebody to very quickly be able to do something with some sort of knowledge. So it isn't to train everybody to be qualified first aiders. It's just very, very basic, immediate on-the-spot training.
Well, there is already optional first aid training that people can take as a part of being a committee member.
That is true, but it's a separate training session. So I'm trying to cut down on all the training sessions we have to.
Oh no.
So at the conference, we could have one sort of half-hour training session. Oh, you've got to be kidding.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we can still hear you. Yeah, keep
Am
going,
I back?
keep going.
Or are you laughing at me, or I don't really know?
We would never laugh at you, Diana. Please keep going.
Okay, right. So I want to cut down the amount of training that we are made to do in order to be good committee members, sort of thing, run our clubs in a functional way. I want to put this into Team Surrey conference and make it about half-hour long. And, you know, the reason that the optional first aid training isn't as appealing to some people might be because of the length of time, and obviously it is longer because you actually get a certificate out of it. It is a very good quality training. But
Okay, I'm really sorry, Dan. I'm going to ask you to try and wrap this up because we are running out of time.
That's cool. So I know that everywhere that we train and that we will play, they will be people that are trained to help us, and we just need very basic training in case we don't have someone qualified there at the time.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Okay, one more quick question for Diana. Okay, so Diana, you say you want to work with the Liberation Committee to understand the barriers of sport, but this year the Liberation Committee has already done a lot of work to do this. So what are you planning on actually doing with this information that has already been collected?
So I looked at some of the diversity and inclusivity reports that the activities did, not last year, I think the year before, and sort of having those numbers, and we know sort of in terms of quantitative evidence, we know who's participating and where they're participating, percentage of women teams in bucks, etc. But what we need is actual liberation reps to tell us their experience of their communities, sort of get that qualitative feedback back. So even though sort of like Izzy did an LGBT training session, so build on that. That's a really good resource that we have. So make use of the liberation reps to the full capacity that we can and build on what they were already doing. If it's good, there's no point in saying that we can't make it better. We can just use it better.
Have you been cut?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, thank you. Okay then, so since it's a debate, I thought maybe you guys could ask each other some questions. So, James, in your manifesto, you say you want to incentivize clubs to be more diverse compared to the national average in order to break down stereotypes. And I'm just curious of what your thoughts are on this, Diana.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So James says that he wants to incentivize clubs to be more diverse compared to the national average in order to break down stereotypes. What are your thoughts on this?
I think looking at the national average is sort of interesting. It does show trends in sport, but I do think we need to narrow it down to Surrey. And we do know that there is a division, especially in terms of what sort of ethnicities and backgrounds that participate in sport. And even though looking at the national average is useful, I think we do need to get a lot more information from Surrey students themselves and work towards bettering our participation levels first.
All right, thank you. Okay, James, you can get your own back. Do you have anything to ask Diana about her manifesto?
Not particularly. I think everything Diana has in her manifesto is great, and if she gets elected, that it will really improve Team Surrey. And yeah, to be honest, everything is achievable. I don't know what more to say without pretty much endorsing her, so I'm going to stop myself from talking.
All right.
Thanks, James.
Well, unfortunately, I'm now going to force you guys to endorse each other. So, I would like you to tell me one idea that is on the other person's manifesto that you think is so good that you wish you had thought of it first. James can start, please.
Putting in Diana's bit with the liberation reps and putting that in with mine about using the club's incentives to basically try and break down barriers and get more people into sport who traditionally wouldn't think it's for them, and using more specialised knowledge which the liberation committees have. I would want to include that in mine.
All right, thank you. And Diana?
I do like James's idea to sort of incentivize clubs to be more diverse, sort of maybe putting things into stars criteria, that sort of stuff, and sort of giving people rewards for sort of ticking all the boxes. I really like that idea. I think clubs would be much more open to doing some of our, putting forward some of our ideas if we sort of gave them something back. I think it's a good idea.
All right, thank you. Okay, we have a bit of time left, so we're going to go for a classic. If you had to cut a club to save money, which one would you go for? All right, then Diana, you can start.
Oh, okay, so I know that golf is a very expensive club in terms of the amount of budget to members that it has. That's one I would cut also simply because they do not put a lot of sort of work into doing sort of play sport activities. It is very much about sort of a competition. I'd like a wider spread of the money, personally. I am sorry to any golfer out there.
No, that's a very valid answer. All right then, James.
If I had to choose one, I would probably have to say rifle, as it's the most, because of the nature of it, is the most restrictive club in the fact that you have to go through various background checks with the police before you're even allowed to join, and the amount of money that gets invested into the club when, in theory, it isn't open to everyone. When it goes on to the community debates yesterday with Misuse of Drugs Act and bits like that, for someone who's had warnings from that, if that gets reported to the police, that cuts them out of a club, and I don't think that should be acceptable at this university.
Thank you, James. All right then, since originality is dead, I'm going to go for another classic. Who do you want to be your VP activity? James, you can start.
I would have to go with Mason. He's a brilliant guy, and I've never seen anybody who's so willing to put 100% of his effort into anything he puts his mind to.
Fantastic. And Diana?
I'd obviously prefer to watch the debate first, but off the bat, off manifestos, off my experience of them, I would have to say Maya, because a lot of sort of my manifesto points resonate with hers, and I think as a team we could do quite a lot together with those points.
All right then. Thank you.
Maybe I should have a better finisher when I finish my sentences, because it feels like no one can tell if I'm cut or if I've just stopped talking.
I can't see you, so I am 100% guessing. All right then. Thank you very much for being such fantastic candidates, and I wish you both a lot of luck in your campaigns. But now it is the time that you've all been waiting for. I'm going to don the hat that I made. I thought this was going to be a fantastic idea. I'm kind of changing my mind now. I feel sorry for whoever's sitting behind me. All right then, so we're going to go to Pundits Corner, and then we're going to have the debates for your VP activity. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to move to Pundits Corner now.
We're back. Lovely. So,
Bye, friends.
We did have a moment there where the audio on James's what he was saying cut out, and he went from Rifle Club to the Misuse of Drugs Act, and we don't know what happened in between, but we feel that that missing bit of text was very important. So if anybody knows, please answer us on a postcard to Television Centre W181AA. There we are. That was the candidates for Team Surrey Chair, and a few technical issues, but we got through it in the end. 2 candidates, as always in every election, there is a third. Reopen nominations, Ron, which means none of the above. Now, they touched on a very important subject at the very beginning, Gavin. It's something that is of increasing importance, which is the conduct of sports clubs collectively, individually, when they go on tour and things like that. It's something that we've had some issues with, and it's something that we're always quite aware of. So why is that an issue now?
Why is it an issue now? I think that I hope it's not that the behaviour's changed and we become more reckless and worse well behaved. I think maybe it's just, and you might hear this from students from 5-6 years ago that it's something they did and they were never got in trouble for it. But I think there's I don't know. I just think we're a lot more clear about what our expectations are of students' behaviours. I think. And I think that some of the last few years that I've been involved with, some of the disciplinaries and some of the information, it's not great at all. And I think that's that almost living student life in a bubble, not recognising what life looks like. And not recognising what these experiences do to others. I suppose maybe they just haven't. Some of the students just haven't connected to, and whether it's that being part of a mass group and feeling like you've got to go along with the crowd. I don't know.
And sometimes there's a perception that in the no, have you seen the time? You're too late. Come back. Sorry. Enough. There is a perception that when you reach professional sporting teams, the conduct is just even more extreme. But those coaches that I've spoken to have played at a top flight level, you ask them what they do, in terms of, on the bus afterwards, it's extremely mild in comparison to what you see at university. So it really must be a myth that this is what happens in the big teams.
Yeah, I think it generally is, and I think actually it's probably maybe the stories from 20 years ago. Maybe they got up to sort of no good on coaches' home, but that isn't how professional sports people conduct themselves anymore. Professional athletes, and therefore a lot of students are saying they come in and saying we want to be treated more like professional athletes. Some of the certain sports, and they want strength and conditioning sessions, and they want more funding and full-time permanent coaches. That conduct has got to follow through with it, I think.
Okay, devil's advocate and opening up to everybody. Most people who study here are over 18. They're all adults. They're all consenting adults. Why can't they, as a team, get together and do whatever they want? Why do we care?
I think when we're looking at the conduct that has been taken disciplinary in late, the issue has not actually always been it's all consenting adults getting involved. It's actually when you're getting people that didn't even want to be on, in that situation in the first place. It's when you're getting those people involved. If it's a team and they're, picking on one particular person, they haven't consented to that, that kind of treatment. And I think that, university, yes, you're 18, you're consenting, but you're also in a very vulnerable situation where you've just left home, potentially. It might be the first time, for example, if you go on tour, that might be the first time that you ever go away. You ever actually use your passport is on tour. So I think that when we're thinking about this, it's all right to play devil's advocate academically, but actually we're talking about real people here that have actually been through things that you and I wouldn't feel comfortable hearing about.
It's even when you arrive at university, it's always a pet peeve when you hear other staff members say, well, they're 18 years old, they should be able to cook for themselves, clean for themselves, know how to open a bank account, how to conduct themselves properly. And you hear the same thing every year from all 18-year-olds that come in, is that there is no way that you can truly prepare what university life is like compared to school. And then you've got the least support you've probably ever had in making that transition. There's a huge argument to talk about the transition. So it's not saying that there's no wonder why all of this happens, but I think as a university, as a collective, we've got to recognise that what can we do more in the first few months when they arrive to help them become an adult on the road to adulthood. I don't think anyone's ever truly an adult, a full-on adult. But we've certainly got a better part to play in terms of helping them manage that behaviour a little bit.
Do you think then, therefore, that's so important that those club committee members, as signatories, and these the roles like have an important part to play, certainly in those first few weeks? Because like all things, that first week, month of any new job, any new membership to anything is usually quite informative, and usually it's hard to change from that moment onwards.
And there's a lot of second years that become those signatories. So I think with obviously our placement year, I think is phenomenal that we've got, but I think a lot of other universities will have their signatories in their final year, and I think the predominant amount of our signatories come from the second years. And I was part of the placement year interview paneling today for the shortlisted, some of the amazing students that are doing great stuff on placements, and watching the way that they are coming back from placement than before they went. There was maturity, growing up, sense of responsibility. They're all words that were starting to come out, and you see the change in that year. And there's an awful lot of pressure, like you said, on the second year, having to, and we spoke about it earlier, running a club, running a society. It's a huge ask on such young shoulders.
I think an incredible thing that has been implemented this year is the wellbeing sort of position that they've tried to, because lots of clubs and societies were doing it before they had their own one, but that was off their own back, whereas now obviously the VP activity and VP support have come together to really create this role that's really recognised by the union, and you get proper training in order to support people within your club and society. I think that that's a huge step for us to have made, and I think that will probably do, And
I think every club and society's got one now. Is that right?
Yeah,
Pretty much everybody.
Huge take up.
That's voluntary. It wasn't mandatory. That's amazing, and that's I think students saying how much they validate that being such a needed role.
Because we had more and more societies that were coming forward saying we've got this concern about X, Y, or Z student. And some of them, they just generally didn't know what to do next. And we were having this conversation last night about support, how at one time it was just nothing or Centre for Wellbeing, and now we have all these different levels in between, and it just, giving people a little bit of confidence in order to talk about and deal with these issues has really helped smooth a lot of this over. I want to move on and talk a little bit about the culture of sport, because there was a comment made there about turning Surrey into Loughborough. So you visited Loughborough. Did you go there for the Bucks conference?
We didn't go to Loughborough.
You didn't go to Loughborough.
We went to a number of different universities for the conference and things.
I mean, if you've been to Loughborough, I think it's fair to say we're pretty much worlds apart there. Is it something you're conscious of? I mean, we were having that discussion a few years ago about top 30 Bucks. Do you want to go any further? Because 60 to 30 is one thing, but 30 to top 10 is, you're really pushing against it.
Yeah.
That's no disrespect to those taking part in sports clubs. It's just the effort and resource needed.
Yeah, and resources, and sometimes just generally the culture of what we are. It's an interesting comment, because actually, when you look at the NSS results, Surrey, we rank third for sporting provision.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. So you would suggest, and that's behind Loughborough and Bath. But in terms of what our intentions are, I don't think I've ever heard the term be like Bath or Loughborough ever. In any discussions we've had, we've sort of almost known who we are and what we are, and that sort of that goalpost has changed. I think 10 years ago we looked at being a top 40, 50 university, and then suddenly top 30 in Bucks is great. But we know where our ceiling is, and I don't think that's ever been mentioned.
No, and even when you ask anyone in EB level, they'll always say, 10 years ago, it's how are we doing in Bucks? And it was kind of the one buzzword that everyone kind of associated with all things sports, park and physical activity. And now it's how many people on Surrey moves. That's the new sort of buzzword that's going around. I think in all of the comms that goes out, there's very little mention of, like we said earlier, the elite facilities, etc. It's all about how many people are engaging as a whole.
It's all about balance, a whole balance of activities and choices, for all students. The watchword of the last few nights has been diversity and lots of different opportunities. Alexa, we're about to hear the candidates for VP activity. A slightly different question for you. What are they not expecting when the winner comes into office? What will hit them that they didn't expect?
I don't think anyone can prepare you for the enormity of and the diversity of clubs and societies in terms of the things that will come at you, the questions that they have, and the issues that they have. You will never be prepared for that, because everything that you've done so far, and I was, at university, I did my 5-year course. It was a very long course, thick sandwich, and I was very involved with clubs and societies the whole time, and that did not prepare me for the depth and breadth of questions and complaints and issues. Like, I remember I used to print out my email of the week, and it was because it was just something completely out of the box that no one could ever think of, but you'd get it. And the VP activity gets the most emails because you have all these people and you are their last stop. They're like, we don't know where to take this anymore, so we're taking it to you. And you've just got to be like, okay, I'm ready for it. Like, I'm ready for everything you can throw at me of every single club and society, because there will be, there's always going to be issues. There's going to be issues with committees. There's going to be issues with training space. There's going to be issues with asbestos. All these things are going to come at you, and you've just got to be ready and open-minded to be like, I've got no experience of this, but I am ready to listen to you, and I'm ready to find out the right person to talk to.
Well, there we are. VP activity, the human dartboard with 1 million darts made of human shit firing at you every week. So now it's time to go back to Rubix to hear the likely candidates who are vying for the position of VP activity, and we'll see you after the debate.
Activity Zone has done so much this year. Working with the Zonies and our full-time members of staff, we have achieved so much. We started off the year with Freshers Week with active freshers and Freshers Fair, where all our clubs and societies come together to gather their new members. In November, we recruited our very first Girls Who Can ambassadors and had our very first takeover at the sports park, with hundreds of girls coming through the doors doing a variety of different sessions. We had a really good uptake from those sessions, which are showing that females are getting involved in sport. As you know, varsity is one of the biggest projects that belongs to the Activity Zone in collaboration with community. Meetings started in December with us going over to Royal Holloway to meet their VP Sports and VP Societies. From there, we talked about the vision that we had around varsity. Now that it's later on in the year, we're getting into full swing of varsity spirit. As you can see with the wall paint, we've just filmed our varsity teaser trailer, which will give our students a little taste of what's to come. February is one of the biggest months for activity, with Feel Good Feb, our Kelly's 5 and 10K, and our second annual female takeover of the sports park. It is jam-packed with things to do and things to get involved in. We gave our clubs a little surprise and made them little get-involved boxes as a little good luck when they got ready for their games. We ran first aid training for societies to get them equipped with skills that they may need, thus making them more employable, and loads more, from movie nights to helping sports and societies put on free sessions. There is so much to get involved in Feb. Some of our biggest events are also happening through activity, with Strictly Come Surrey being brought onto the union this year. We're bringing staff and students together to see if they can dance, support our fellow staff and students, and just have a good time. We also have our annual Union and Colours Ball, which come under activity and community. These are always a massive, prestigious event rewarding sports and societies and individuals for things that they give back to Surrey, to the union and to clubs and societies. As you've seen, there's so much to get involved with in the Activity Zone at Surrey. I hope you enjoy the debate. Don't hesitate to get in contact or get involved, and I hope to see you soon.
Chairing the debate for VP activity, please welcome Solomon Melidi.
Hello everyone, benvenuto, galosserisere, and welcome to the VP activity debate of the evening. As many of you know, I'm Solomon. I've chaired in the past. I have trained, not flown, all the way from Paris to be here because I'm sad. So I think it's a time that we welcome all of the candidates on stage and we get on to find out what your candidates are like. Okay, so we have a pre-prepared question for all our candidates. It's a general to introduce yourself, why you are running, and one campaign or event from the year you would like to improve.
It's not us.
Isn't it? Oh dear, whoops, I have...
What would you like our legacy to be?
Ah, that's embarrassing, isn't it? I copied the wrong one. Well, we're off to a smashing start, aren't we? Did you get the question? Has anyone got the question? You're a star, thank you. That is very embarrassing, but never mind. Introduce yourself, why you're running, and what you would like your legacy to be. And if we start from my left, your right, and we go all the way across.
Okay. Hi guys, my name is Maya Al-Tamimi. I am an international student. I come from Syria. I'm currently studying a master's in management, and at the same time, I'm sitting on the activity zone as Team Surrey chair. Throughout my 4 years at university, I've been heavily involved in several societies, and most notably, University of Surrey Women's Football Club. Getting involved in these clubs has really helped me and shaped me to becoming the person that I am today, which is why I'm here. It's really helped my personal development and growth. And in my first year, I honestly wanted to drop out of uni several times, and the only reason I didn't is because I had the support system. Joining societies and joining clubs gave me a second family, and that's why I really feel like it's my responsibility to make sure that all students are able to get involved and they know what opportunities they can get involved in. So my legacy would be to alleviate any possible barriers that students may have in participation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Talia. I'm currently a final year international politics student, and I co-chair the Women's Rugby Club. Why I'm running for VP Activity is because as I got more involved in the rugby club in my second year of committee, I really realised I wanted everyone to know how well we were doing, what events we had going on and everything like that, but I realised I actually don't know much about what other societies and clubs are up to. So I thought that was quite a big issue, that I felt most of our clubs and societies are quite isolated in their own little ecosystem. So in the same kind of vein, I'd like my legacy to have created more of a close-knit community within all of our activity at Surrey, because it's a shame that we're not closer.
Great. Woo! Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Alice. I am going to be running to be your next VP Activity. Nearly said the wrong words there. So I am running because I want to make a difference and make every student feel like they can get involved in any sport and society they want to. I have been involved in lots of different sports in my time here at Surrey. I've been the president of the Jiu-Jitsu Club twice. I am their current Wellbeing and Inclusion Champion, and I've also been involved in the Climbing Club as their current Wellbeing and Inclusion Champion. All these different sports and societies have had such an impact on me, and the reason I'm running today is because I want to make that an opportunity that every student has. My legacy, I want to introduce all the things I put in my manifesto as long-standing implications that mean that all students can get involved for many years to come. Thank you.
Woo!
Hello, my name is Nathan Stickland. I am a current third-year Theatre Performance student studying at GSA and the University of Surrey. I am currently part of Dodgeball Committee as I'm a social sec. And yeah, I'm running for VP Activity. I've got some tips for the union, which is T for training, I for inclusion, P for participation, and S for spotlight. I would like to make the union better as a student. I know how, not running beforehand, I know that it can be improved. I just want to make the union experience better for all students as possible. Thank you very much.
So hi everyone, my name's Luke. I'm a third year politics and economics student, and I'm running for VP Activity because I've been on various committees in the last 2 years of being here at uni, and in this time I've had enough kind of interaction with the union and the knowledge acquired to be what I think would be a pretty successful VP Activity. I bring the perfect balance of societies and sports clubs, which is obviously essential to be VP Activity because it encompasses both, and I want to make every society feel like they are valued adequately by the union, which I think some societies currently do not feel. So my legacy, I would love that to be VP Activity has made people restore faith in the union to be an effective body and providing an excellent extracurricular activities for all students. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, candidates. Great answers. So I'm going to start off with a general question to all of you. So my first question, which I think a few of you have answered in your introduction, is: are you a member of a club or society? If so, which? Just very quick, just list them off. If we start, we go this way around, yeah.
So I'm a member of STAR, Students Take Actions for Refugees. If you hadn't heard of it, please have a look at what it is. It's a great society that helps refugee children and families. Apart from that, I'm part of the Arabic Society, and I am part of women's football, not as a committee member this year, but just as a footballer.
I'm a part of the rugby club, both within women's rugby, where I am the co-chair and treasurer, and also the touch rugby segment of the club as well.
Cool.
So I'm involved with Jiu-Jitsu and the USMC or Mountaineering Club this year.
I'm a part of Dodgeball Society.
So I am the president of Concert Band. I am an active committee member in the Athletics and Cross Country Club. I'm a member of Jazz, and I'm a frequent attender of Politics Society meetings.
Awesome. Okay, so you've just listed off the clubs and societies you're a member of. How do we, as the voters, know that you're not going to prioritise your clubs and societies over any others? I think we'll go the reverse order. So if we start at my right, your left.
Sorry, what was the question again? Sorry, could you repeat that?
How do we know, as the voters, that you're not going to be prioritising your club and society?
So one of my main manifesto points is every society matters. Whether you have 10 members, 100 members, I want every society to feel equally valued. And obviously, prioritising my own society goes directly against that. I'd be lying to people. That's something I'm not about. Realistically, I can't. Prioritising the concert band, what am I going to do? Make everyone play a musical instrument? It's not going to happen. So yeah, that's exactly why I wouldn't prioritise any society in particular.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been actually speaking to more societies and clubs that I've not been a part of yet, because obviously I'm part of Dodgeball Society as a committee member, as a social sec, but I actually want to hear the other clubs and societies at the union and what they have to say. So I want to actually help more than what I'm just currently doing myself, and hear about every student's personal experience during clubs, outside of clubs, during societies, outside societies, and all active experience.
Great.
So I've been a student here for 4 years, and when you've been here this long, you get touched by every single sport and society in this community, because I don't think any student in this room can say they've not been accidentally dragged into a bar crawl or an event from another club. They all make a massive influence on every student's life, and I want to keep encouraging that kind of atmosphere. That's my favourite part about the University of Surrey, is that we have that atmosphere where every club and society will welcome you in with open arms, and that's a culture I really want to cultivate. That's why I'm running, because I want to keep that culture going, expand it, and break down all barriers to entry for as many students as possible.
Great, thank you.
So it's true, I've spent a lot of my time at uni involved with rugby. However, the job is VP activity, it's not VP rugby. So if elected, that's what I'll do. It's the societies and the clubs that we have here, they're both equally important. It's what's expected, it's the job role. I would never be biased in that respect.
So, do you want to come? That was a good answer. So I think this year, as Team Surrey Chair, I obviously was in the Activity Zone Committee, and I wouldn't say I had any favoritism towards my club. If anything, I probably gave them a harder time. Anytime they crossed the line, I'd be like, right, you need to all get your together. And maybe you can all look at Lizzie right now and ask her if I do have any favoritism. I'd say no, and obviously that would be the same if I'm VP Activity next year. I want to give everything to all 155 societies and all 45 sports clubs equally.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. To continue the theme that we're having in this So Decides, I too have prepared a games round. I actually prepared one last year but didn't do it. I gave it to Fatin. So we are going to do a game show round, and I've called this game show So Decides Candidates for VP Activity. What do they know? Do they know things? Let's find out. We have in front of each candidate is a white piece of paper.
I do not.
Oh, there's yours.
No, it's in front of your name.
Oh, yeah,
You can't see it. Do you not have paper?
No, actually we don't. There's only 2 sets.
I've got some. Yeah, great. Can you pass some extra paper, please? Cool.
Thank you. I'm lacking a pen as well.
We have Okay.
Oh, cheers.
Okay.
Very prepared.
There's another. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very
Beautifully
much.
brought over by my
Oh, you can use that one.
assistant, my beautiful co-host, Noah, who is going to be marking the scores. And we also have, I can't see you all, we have Cam in front of us, who's going to tell me who puts their hands up first. Well, it's not hands, you all have a flag. I took the EU one for myself, I hope that's not a problem. You all have a flag in front of you. I'm going to ask questions, I want you to raise the flag. Cam will tell me who it was first, and then you'll get a point if you get it right. And there's diverse. I've made a massive effort to keep it mixed between general societies, and clubs and general. So the first question is what is the name of the union branding for improving employability? That was Mason, okay.
Employable Me?
It is Employable Me. And we even have stage crew putting in the nice bing and if they're right and wrong. So question number 2. What is the society's equivalent of the club colours? That was Mason again.
Society Stripes?
It is Society's Stripes. Okay. Question number 3. Who is the director of sport at SSP? That was so fast I heard it.
He's my best mate. It's the lovely Gavin.
It is the lovely Gavin. Okay. Question number 4, and this is something to write down on your papers. And then it's.
Do you still put up our flags?
No, just lift it up.
Multitasking.
Actually, no. What we'll do for this one is write it down. I'll ask you to lift them up after like 2 seconds. How many clubs and societies achieved gold stars? I know it's a bit harsh, isn't it? No, looking at your other candidates, that's cheating. Okay, I think that's enough time. So if you all lift them up on 1, 2, 3. Lift them up. Oh. Lift them up so the people can see. The correct answer is 9. Did anyone have 9? No? No one gets a point. I mean, I have quite a few comments to make on that personally, that it's only 9, but there we go. So, the next one is a countdown time. I'm hoping that the countdown timer is ready, stage crew. I would like you to list who all the members of the current activity zone are. Let's go.
Positions or actual names?
All of the activity zone, or 6.
Are you starting?
The activity zone members. Let's see if this is nice. It's disgusting. So hopefully I'm a better chair than I am a barman, which is bad because I work in the bar here. So let's see what we go. If we go from you this way round.
So Lizzie, Maya, Aman, Luke, Declan and Caitlin.
Yeah, that's correct. Point.
I got Lizzie, Luke, Maya and Caitlin.
So you've missed 2.
Oh, sorry. I have Lizzie. Sorry, my handwriting is appalling.
So's mine, don't worry about it.
Lizzie, Maya, Luke, Dec and Caitlin.
I think we're missing a man.
We're missing
yeah.
one. I'm very sorry.
Oh,
I also apologise for my handwriting. Caitlin, Dec, Lizzie, Luke, Maya, Aman.
If you think their handwriting's bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. I got all 6 though. There we go.
Cool. Okay, great. It was fun, and I have to drink this, and I'm not sure if I really want to. And I've been in France for a year, and my wine is not really
That's
comparison.
questionable.
What, the wine or the cocktail?
No, the cocktail.
You can have some if you like.
I'm good.
Okay, great. So, question number 7 is, which is the largest society? Hands up. Luke?
Oh, fuck, it was on the thing earlier.
What did you say?
It is, I know that Mexoc's the 3rd largest, isn't it?
Okay, goes to you. I think you were second.
Vetsoc.
It is Vetsoc. Cool, mark point, yeah. And which is the largest club? Yeah, okay, Mason.
American football?
No. It's actually rugby. What is...
sorry, rugby.
And then on your papers, if you could write, what is the activity zone budget?
The entire thing, or
The budget for the activity zone, yeah.
okay.
Just the zone, yeah. Okay, lift up your answers.
Oh, I think we've written anything.
The correct answer is 13,500.
I was about to write that. I wrote 13.
No, it says that.
I was
just
so
written
close.
specifically other elements of the budget.
Okay, cool. And you got it right as well, didn't you? Yeah. Okay, cool. I think we'll rattle through because this is going on a while. So we will go for the last question. We'll skip out the others. We'll go for the last question, which is, who won the gold medal for S4 Southern University's Trampolining League? Hands up.
So what was the question?
Who won gold medal for the S4 Southern University's Trampoline League? Hands up. Yeah.
Was it you?
It was indeed me. Okay, let's move on to some more serious stuff. So, all of you have mentioned inclusivity. So I'm going to go around and ask you some inclusivity questions. Please feel free to join in and ask other candidates questions. So if we start with Mason, you mentioned that there's low turnout for clubs and societies. I know that you used the data from the survey, but that only had a couple of thousand responses. According to the union data, unique memberships, that's people joined at one club, it distracts from duplicate memberships. It's about 50% of the student body. Is that low? And if not, you've mentioned that you'd like to contact students that aren't engaged. How will you do it?
Well, it's not low, it's halfway, but I believe that no matter what, we can always try and increase inclusivity and increase participation. I think it's something important that we need to discuss as a cohort, that we are making sure that everyone is given the same chance to be active. The daily recommendation of physical activity is 30 minutes a day, and as students, growing adults and adults, we should be allowed to have that time to actually do that and be encouraged to do that. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I think you've probably answered. It's how you contact the students, because in your manifesto you say you want to contact and engage students.
So I wanted to, if I were to get elected, I would like to release a questionnaire speaking about all the societies and clubs that are on offer and physical activity opportunities the union provides. I would like to list some questions like, what do you think could be done to change and encourage more students to participate in activity? Especially, I want to listen to why there's only 49% students only 51% students who attended a society or activity at this university.
So I just want to ask, because you said surveys. We have quite a few surveys that go out. You want to do another one?
It wouldn't be a survey, it would be more of a questionnaire, so that way the union and myself can figure out and actually hear reasons rather than statistics why some students feel that they don't want to, aren't encouraged, or don't participate in activities, societies or clubs on campus.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we go to Alice, my question for you is, you talk about the takeovers. You talk about the takeovers, like the female takeover, and you want to spread that out. My question for you is, we have over 50% of students in the university that are women. So if there is a female takeover, there's a large number. Is that the same for other groups that you'd like to do? Like you to say which other groups you'd like to do, and if so, is it a good use of money because we have to pay the sports staff, the sports centre to stay open for takeovers?
So sorry, could you...
Yeah, of course. So what I'm saying is you use the female takeover as an example and you wanted to expand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying we have over 50% of the university students are female, so there's a demand and it's worth the money that we spend. For other groups, let's take the LGBT, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to do those. If you're going to do the LGBT, there's a lot less of them.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good use of money to still do a takeover?
Okay, so the takeover that I think you're talking about on my manifesto is the Exercise for Everyone takeover. This would be targeting neurodiverse and disabled students as well as community members. So the idea would be, akin to the female takeover that's already in place, after opening hours, we open the sports park up and we manage the way we run it into making it more accessible for students who are neurodiverse and disabled. For example, that'd be cutting the music, offering ear defenders and running a range of different sports. So Gavin, sorry, I'm not allowed to say names, am I? the managing director of Surrey Sports Park, has introduced a new manifesto when he joined, and it's all about transforming lives. So it's something we've already got support for within the sports park, and this exercise for everyone takeover wouldn't just be for students, it'd be for students to run events for community members as well. So we're covering both bases. We're improving our reputation as a university. We're encouraging students within our own university to get involved in sports if they already feel like maybe the sports park isn't a place that they'd be necessarily able to engage in sport, and covering a massive wide range of people. So it's not just that small cohort you
Yeah,
suggesting.
okay, I understand. Yeah, sure, makes sense. Luke.
Hello.
You talk about expanding the well-being and inclusivity role. I'm just wondering, did you speak to anyone from the union about this? Like, did you go and speak to people about your ideas?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because I'm wondering, because the union, I spoke to the union, and they're planning on dropping the inclusion part from the champs so that can be linked with the Lib Dems more directly. Do you think that's a bad idea?
They're dropping the inclusion part of the role.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that. I had no idea. I did speak to someone from the union about my policies, and I wasn't informed.
It did go around in an email to all committee members.
Committee members. Well, anyway, personally, I think, well, obviously in my manifesto, I think this role should be expanded because, like, obviously, it's a very important part of a society feeling included. Whether it should have its own role, it depends on the resources an individual society or club may have, I guess. So I guess if a societal club has the resources to have separate roles, then it's a good idea, I guess. But I guess you could put it together for a smaller society, for example, who barely even are able to scrape 3 signatories by, personally, yeah.
Okay, the reason that we said, first I have to make a correction. I said Lib Dems because I've got politics on the mind. I actually meant the Lib Com, which is really bad because I used to be on it, so it was meant to be Lib Com. So the reason they've done that is because the welfare officers have actually been a bit swamped with the amount of work that they've had, and that's why they've wanted to do it. So yeah, that was the reason behind it. No, well, oh, I see. Yeah. Trust the Twitter wall. Trust the Twitter wall. Maya, you mentioned stereotypes in sports. Many of the sports teams, because I spoke to both Jodie and they've mentioned that many of the sports teams that do have stereotype problems have been and spoken to the union, and they're worried about it. They want to change it, but they don't know how. So what sort of advice would you give to them about trying to make themselves more diverse, and sort of examples of different things that they could do?
Yeah, so I actually read this NUS report that I only came across today, which actually is a long-term strategy where you can eradicate culture, stereotypes, peer pressure, and all that. It's a great 28 pages. I'll send it to anyone who wants it. I may have skimmed through it. But if you're talking about stereotypes in particular, me as an international student, it was actually although I speak English, it was very daunting for me going to my first training session and thinking to myself, oh, am I going to be different? Am I going to actually belong in this group of people? So I think I've got a good example of it. So I went on different Team Surrey teams' websites from the USSU, and I went on hockey. I don't know if anyone here is from hockey. I went on hockey, and I looked at it, and I thought, that is great marketing, the way that they've actually showed themselves and reflected the team. Their website has words such as inclusivity, welcoming, all levels, and the way they've kind of portrayed themselves is so good. And I think the way we can do that as strategy, or the advice I can give you, is market it better. I think in committee training, or in the end, so the training that presidents get this year after the handover, I think that's when we should tell them, right, guys, make sure that in your Instagram posts and all that, you're showing the diversity that you have in your club, you're showing that you're inclusive, and you're showing that your club doesn't just consist of this ethnic group or that, because I think some people feel scared, especially if English is in your first language. You may not want to go somewhere where you don't feel like you'll fit in. So I feel like we should always just, the way we're showing ourselves as committee members and stuff, the way we're portraying our club through social media, through websites, just work on that, really.
Sure, great, thanks. And then Talia, I didn't actually see much mention of diversity and inclusivity on your manifesto. Is there a reason you haven't done it? Do you think it's okay at the university?
That's a good point. It wasn't really something I was focusing on because I was taking I manifested from my experiences.
Mhm.
So, for example, in the Women's Rugby Club, our Wellbeing and Inclusion champion is coincidentally Amy, who's doing Activity Zone. She's done a really good job of re-engaging people and making sure that we have a really inclusive environment for people to come in. So we've still been getting members joining us throughout the year, independently of Freshers or Refreshers Week. So
Great for rugby, but
Yeah,
I'm
no.
thinking about the okay. Well, now let's give you an opportunity to think of something on the spot. Can you think of something you'd like to do, or something that you think would increase inclusivity?
I think based on Amy's work specifically, I think we should be doing campaigns to make sure that everyone knows you can be involved no matter what time of the year, because there are sort of barriers for entry in terms of how do I join an ecosystem that's already kind of working on its own. And I think that the wellbeing champions, well, actually, if we're talking about making inclusion kind of a part of all committee training, making sure that all of our committees are aware of how to engage with new people and make sure that they feel included and welcomed in on their first day.
Great, thank you. I think we'll wrap up that on inclusivity. I'm going to move on to my group question number 2, which is about. Sorry, I'm going to move on to my group question, which is, has the performance aspect of books been lost? Should Team Surrey be striving to be in the top 20 books, and should this come at the cost of inclusivity as SSP times are limited? Did that make sense to anyone? Anyone want
Sorry,
me to-
could you repeat it?
Yeah, sure. I'm saying, has the performance aspect of Team Surrey been lost? Should Team Surrey be striving to be in the top 20 books? And should this come at the cost of inclusivity, given that SSP times are limited? So I think we will, if you don't mind, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, to address the first bit, I don't think our performance has been lost at all. I don't know where that idea has come from, to be fair.
So no, the aspect of focusing on. So when Team Surrey started, it was
Okay.
quite performance focused, and we've moved to being more inclusive as we've gone forward in time.
I think it's not necessarily that we've moved to being more inclusive as a focus. I think it's more that the team has grown massively, and because we've got that increase in staff, we're able to target more groups of students. It might seem that we're moving towards inclusivity, but it's more a case that it's balancing back out to cover both grounds. We have staff that are specifically dedicated to ensuring that Bucks' performance is going really, really well. For example, this year, the Team Surrey staff came up and gave little gift bags to all of the teams that were competing at the Bucks weekend recently, and that was an amazing example of how our staff are supporting our Bucks teams. But equally, we have staff specifically dedicated to improving inclusivity and accessing inactive sports, with the campaign begun with Surrey Moves that was really popular. And I think that's something that we need to reactivate and bring back to the forefront of sport, because it's an amazing way to get as many people involved in sport, even in a little way.
Great, thank you. Luke?
Yes, I don't think we actually need to necessarily prioritise performance or inclusivity. Why can't we have both? Because speaking purely anecdotal here, at the athletics club, we have both. We have performance athletes. We have athletes that go train with Guildford Running Club, but we are also a very inclusive club. We have many athletes who come just once a week to run 5K. So, but personally, I can't speak for every single sports club, but I don't see why. Obviously, there is restrictions on pitches, coaching available to other teams. But
sorry, just to interrupt. You say you can't speak for other clubs, but you are expected to speak for other
yes,
clubs
well,
next
obviously
year.
I am
so
expected to speak for other clubs next year. I mean, like right now, I can't speak for other clubs. I think there should be an emphasis on both. I know that a lot of clubs have sessions where they do first team only, and then they do sessions that are inclusive to all people of that society. So I think continuing that should be something that's very important.
Great, thank you. Talia?
I think it's really important for our Bucks performances to keep getting higher, but I don't think that it necessarily has to come at the cost of being inclusive. I think moving towards more play sport sessions in different clubs, and Surrey Moves it doesn't. They don't have to not coexist together. I
So
don't think.
play sport can be difficult. So I'm from trampolining, if anyone doesn't know. Play sport is quite difficult for trampolining because it's quite difficult to coach new skills. It's something that builds up over time. So play sports does come with its problems as well. So how do you get around the problem with play sports and that interfering with inviting people in?
So, for example, for touch rugby is a play sport session, but also we then do a performance aspect as well within the session. I don't think necessarily that you have to have one or the other, even in the sessions for the performance aspect. If that's sort of saying, oh, we'll focus on this, and then the beginners can do that kind of stuff and change what activities they're up to during the sport sessions. But I don't think they have to be different sessions.
Okay, and Mason?
Bucks is important. I think that a bit of acknowledgement has been lost with Bucks. I've not seen much posting about Bucks recently. I think we could get actually acknowledged a bit more, but the most important thing I believe is inclusivity. Sorry about that. Just so that everyone is given the same opportunity. It's only fair that all students be given the same amount of resources and others aren't prioritised over others.
So if I don't mind me interrupting, yes. So not being prioritised over others, is that based on numbers? So some teams are bigger, should they get more priority than others because they've got more numbers, or should it be equal across all teams?
I think it should be equal across all teams, just because, so take for example, Team Surrey branding, you are Team Surrey. Everyone here is Team Surrey. We are all a part of the same cohort. We need to say, no matter what, you are supported. The union is supporting you and backing you. As well with sports, but as well with societies as well. Yes, we have Bucks, but let's actually acknowledge the work the societies are doing as well, and ensure that both clubs and societies are included together in that same acknowledgement. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Maya?
So I personally don't think that our Bucks performance is really decreasing. I actually think we do great on both aspects. I think me as being Team Surrey Chair this year, sorry, I keep saying that, but working together with the clubs this year, what I wanted to do is make sure that inclusion was a big part of it. So many club committees have spoken to me about how they can do that. And for example, what we did personally in my club is that we opened a training session to every single person, no matter what their level is. But then we have kept our Tuesday training sessions only for first team and second team players, and many clubs do that. So clubs such as rugby, I've never played rugby before this year, they've made sessions on a Saturday where they've actually paid for the pitch space to allow anyone who hasn't played rugby to actually be involved in it. So many clubs are doing that through charity tournaments on the weekend, through inclusive sessions, and yes, play sport does, I think, count to it. I do understand what you meant about the certain skills that are required sometimes, but I think play sport does a great job because it does make you feel like you are part of the club. A lot of players only go to play sport, but then they make those social relationships with the people that are actually in the first and second and third team, and that creates an inclusive environment. And those people that are going to play sport sessions, when they're going in, week out, eventually they will actually make the club. We've had so many players that have come up from being development players to second.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go to a question from the floor. So has anyone got a question? I think our current VP activity actually has a question, so if we could get the mic over to her.
Hello. So yeah, obviously at the moment activity is my baby, so amazing seeing one of you guys take over, but obviously there's 5 of you up there at the moment. What makes you stand out from the other candidates? What makes you more qualified for the role than your 4 other opposition?
And who wouldn't expect such a fantastic question from our VP activity? Yeah, does everyone understand the question? Does anyone want me to repeat it? No, all okay. If we start with Luke.
Yes, so I think something that sets me apart from the other candidates is the fact that I am from a range of societies, that's big and small, sports and societies, my apologies. So I'm from a complete range. I know what represents students who are part of a society with 50, 100 members. I know how to represent students who have 10 members. I'm part of the jazz orchestra. We don't even know, we might go dormant next year. Like, we're genuinely worried about that. Whereas there's societies, who have 15 committee members. So that's something that I think sets me apart, my range of societies. I know issues that can affect societies from all over, and clubs obviously, from all over the spectrum.
Great, thank you. Talia?
I think that I'm a bit of an outsider from the union, so being able to look at what we've been doing with activity this year from sort of a fresh set of eyes and what I think is missing, which is what I've sort of put on my manifesto in terms of making sure we've got more of a community around. But yeah, I do recognise that maybe I don't have the experience, but I think that might actually be good in this situation.
Great, thank you. Alice?
So you've just seen I've got the knowledge and I've got the passion as well. I am more than prepared for this role. I've been prepping since, gosh, I think I spoke to Lizzie about this in October time. I've been prepping this for months and months and months. It's all I want to do. I've got so much preparation and knowledge and I just want to do something with it. I'm passionate about getting as many students and into sports and societies as possible, and I'm ready to do it. I just need you lot to vote me in.
Maya?
First of all, can I just say, I honestly, genuinely think every single one of you is as qualified as you could be, and any of you would be great at the role. Basically, the only thing else I think I can offer is the slight bit of knowledge I have about the union. Just the fact that working for the union already, I really want to collaborate with every single zone. I want to do stuff, as you can see in my manifesto, with the support zone, with the community zone. I want to bring all that together as it should be. And I just think my drive and my passion and my love for sports and getting involved around with different things around campus throughout the year. I'm always joining anything I can possibly do. I love being busy. I just think it's my drive. Nothing else would set me apart from any of you guys, if I'm being honest.
Great, and Mason?
I think something that sets me apart is that I'm a GSA student. Sorry, shameless plug. So I know about how sometimes some courses can have very demanding roles, and at the end of the day, if you come home from a 8 till 6, 9 till 5, or how long your hours are, and depending on your course, activity can be sometimes the last thing that's on your mind. You just want to debrief, de-stress, just go home, have something to eat, maybe watch a film, lie down. So I think that's something that sets me apart in terms of that. But as well, my passion, I want to make this union better. Not just the students who are inside societies and clubs at the moment, but the students who aren't in that as well. Those who don't feel like they can join, or they want to join, but they don't feel encouraged enough. I just want to make sure everyone's given the same opportunity. And I think that's something that sets me apart from my fellow candidates.
Great, thank you. We're coming towards the end of the time.
It's distracting me.
So I'm going to give a quick one, so just quick answers, because we're, as I said, coming towards the end. What would you add and what would you take away from the STARS criteria? And I think we'll start with you, Mason.
Something I want to take away first is the standard volunteering hours you have to do for all societies and clubs. Yes, we have large clubs like rugby and American football as well, but as well we don't sometimes figure about the hours that smaller societies and clubs do. They put in a lot of work, and especially when there's such small amounts of them on the committee, sometimes they feel like their work doesn't shine as much just because they can't sometimes reach that gold star criteria. But
if you could,
sorry. Yeah. And something I would like to add is more recognition. No, more inclusivity and more collabs with other societies and clubs such as like graduates and international societies and clubs. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Talia?
In sort of the same vein as what Mason was saying, I think that the fundraising and also the volunteering hours should be proportional based on the club size. Rugby have found it quite easy to fulfill those hours and the amount raised just because we have more members and it's really not fair on the smaller clubs. And then something I'd add, I do think that we need more constructive collaboration in the collaboration criteria. I think it shouldn't just be able to be done with a social or just a one-off. I think it really does need to be a series of events or multiple collaborations as well.
Okay, great, thank you. If we move on to Luke.
For me, sorry. Yeah, I'm annoyed because all my answers have been stolen. I was going to say yes. I've done lots of work with charity across the societies I've been part of, but I have seen the proportions like they've the amount of money having to raise is quite high on the smaller societies. Something I'd like to add, bit of a, not quite got a solid idea for this, quite a bit of work in progress, some kind of sustainability commitment. I'm big on sustainability, Green Party for life. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
That's it.
Great. I think we'll go to Maya, then we'll finish with you.
So something I'd like to add, which is probably would be a gold stars criteria, is collaboration between a club and society. Currently it's a club or society, so just a collaboration between someone else. I want to make it more specific, so it's a bit more difficult to achieve, and it gets clubs and societies working together. Something I would remove, I'm not sure, but I'm probably going to have to say the hours, because of the same reasons that Mason and Talia both said. It just was a bit easy for certain clubs, and yeah, I think it should be, the threshold should be a bit harder.
Yeah. Okay, great. And if we finish with Maya? Sorry, finish that, it's my mistake.
The thing I'd want to introduce is better recognition for consistent engagement. So, especially with societies, I've been talking to quite a lot of them, and they've been saying that some clubs put in loads and loads of effort, and they do great work to ensure that they're maintaining engagement throughout the year, and that should be something that's celebrated. And something not necessarily I want to remove, but adapt is the limits, the markers you have to achieve in order to get the different stars levels when you're raising money. I think that should be staggered, similar to the volunteering hours are currently, so that it's reflecting the amount of members you've got in a club, because a club with 5 members isn't going to be able to raise as much money as a club with 50, not 1,500.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have a... we have one final question, and it literally is one-word answers. In one word, which student group would you like to work with to improve the activity zone's provisions? And we'll start with Talia.
Postgraduates.
Okay, great. And we'll move to Luke.
People and planet.
Okay, great. Move to Alice.
The health sciences, because I feel like that's an area that we need to do a lot more work in.
Great, thank you. Move to you, Mason.
International students.
Great, thank you. And Maya.
I would say postgraduates and vet students as well, because they're so far away.
Thank you to all of our candidates. That's the end of this debate. Before our candidates go off, I would like to remind everyone that voting opens tomorrow. Voting opens tomorrow after the President's debate. Some of you may have already received a link, but it won't work until the voting officially opens. There are limits to how many emails can be sent in a single day, so it does get staged and spread out over the next few days. You can also vote by clicking on the USSU website. And tomorrow we have the Voice Zone, followed by the Union Chair. And then finally, we have our presidential debate. Before they get off, I'd love to hear a fantastic round of applause for our candidates. They've done amazingly. Okay, great. That concludes today's event, and I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Thank you very much.
Just turn down the noise. Well, there we are. That's we've heard from everything for the activity zone. That's the zonies, the team chair, the societies chair, and the VP. What's the overarching theme that we've picked up from tonight? Anybody? Alexa?
So the overarching theme is absolutely the same as every year. It's always about getting as many people involved as you can. That's always going to be the theme, because that is what the activity zone was set up for. And I think in some ways when people write their manifestos, they really need to think, okay, this is what the job spec says, but what am I going to do above that? And so that's where the standout candidates really come to me, is the what am I doing above the general job spec of I'm going to get people involved.
Dan, question for you. This was very much, I would say, undergraduate focused. And, you know, university has moved on a huge deal. Last night we had Jav talking about care leavers, mature students. We have a big but very close-knit community of postgrad researchers. a lot of people who don't necessarily get involved. These are the you know, the parts of the community that you serve at Hive. What sort of things are they looking for?
So we just saw it on Twitter then towards the end as well. A lot of people saying, you know, where's the postgraduate love? Where's the you know, where's the activities for us? And without
Also, I think the question is, why would you treat a PGR differently? You know, what is it about their lifestyle that makes them in a different category?
It's a great question, because there's one argument that would say if you want to be truly inclusive, you shouldn't treat people differently. You should be able to open up.
Dan, that's the difference between equality
and
fairness.
No, I'm with you, Alexa. A wise lady once told me. But no, I think I don't want to say another blooming survey again, because we've spoken.
Don't say that.
Could be
You'll
a
on the
questionnaire.
Twitter wall.
It could be a questionnaire.
Is it a survey? Is it a questionnaire?
A census?
It's but who's coming in?
Because there's people being put off because you're talking. But
they can come. There's Spessy.
Come in.
Yeah.
Come on in.
Interesting.
Come in. Oh no. Okay.
No.
Don't. No. Come in. We're inclusive.
It could be postgraduates. It's. I'm not really sure what. Again, right in the Hive. So we've said there are times throughout the year, summer, Easter, Christmas periods, where we know that the typical undergraduate offer is there's not going to be many undergraduate students around. So we've tried to say, right, what can we do over those times of the year where we make it specific for people like postgraduates, for students like postgraduates, and they've said, don't even bother trying doing stuff for us throughout the undergraduate year, because we know that we're not going to be able to fight to get a space in up where then there's only 100 tables. So again, I think there's more we could be doing over the summer, Christmas and Easter periods where we've got more dedicated attention to be able to put offers on. So either specific types of memberships, Gav, I throw that over to you a little bit more, or specific activities we can be putting on that focus more on those times a year. I think the overall Team Surrey offering isn't a bad one at all in terms of just getting involved in the club, play sport, Surrey Moves, being a part of the 155 societies. I think the offering is quite broad, but that doesn't mean to say there's not more specific things we can be doing at certain times of the year that are specific to groups that really do need our support, like the groups that you're talking about with Jav.
Gav, I'm going to completely change subject now and just talk about space. And it's incredible to think, you know, when SSP was built, it was a barn. And I remember drawing this little thing with circles for Sharky about, you know, SSP was this big and the audience was that big, and now the audience has filled SSP and more so. There's big pressure on SSP now and the associated pitches. There's plans for development out there, learning hub, hotel. Can you give us an insight into how you're managing those facilities, how you're managing the demand, and anything that students can see in the immediate and long-term future?
Yeah, you know, it's a real challenge, and I think it's something that I'm hoping people recognise this year, and maybe only those that were in it. You know, this year I think we turned over an additional 22 hours of facility space back over to students from what was commercial activity, I suppose, or community activity, both indoor and outdoor, because we're very aware that as the student numbers grow and the interest grows, you know, there's just a pure demand. That's not just the clubs. And so I know one of the questions was around, you know, should we sacrifice elite sport, performance sport for general participation and physical activity? But that needs space as well, you know, and it's a real challenge, I think.
I think it's fair to say that, when SSP was built, you know, there was a lot of excess space that had to be filled with something because there wasn't enough student business to fill it. And what's happened is the student interest has grown over time.
Yeah, I mean, because of what we did. You know, this year, I mean, we've had a couple of letters coming from the community members and users who have complained because we've removed their time and how dare we give it to students. And you have to chuckle at some of those when you have to remind them that we're part of the University of Surrey, and actually students and staff are our most important client, our most important user. But it's something, you know, we're pledging to review year on year, but we still have to balance that, you know, with the commercial return, which we in turn will reinvest back into provision for students. You know.
And I think a lot of people coming from school are used to the sort of activities and sports that you play at school, you know, rugby, football, hockey, etc. What would you think is the best kept secret in Team Surrey? If you were to say to a student who wants to try something, what do you think is the most underrated activity that people should have a go at?
Well, you know what? Two of the sports I would say, two of the activity sports that probably aren't underrated. So they were underrated to me until really this year. You know, dodgeball, ultimate, and I know ultimate is still big back many moons ago when I started here. But you know, their numbers, and certainly for initial participants, people who never played the sport before, are huge. You know, climbing, mountaineering is another one. You know, it's fantastic in terms of people who just have never done it before. And I always said that when we were designing this sports bike sort of 10, 12 years ago. People were saying, well, why do you want a climb wall that big? And I said, well, it just engages people that are just used or turned off by traditional cricket, football, rugby, you know, the traditional big sports. So I think, I'm not sure if they are sleeping giants, but for me, they certainly were this year.
How often is that climbing wall reconfigured?
What, it's in route setting?
Daily?
Yeah. It feels like daily, some of the banging and noises.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be, and I'm pretty certain we budget for it a couple of times a month. But yeah, always feels like they're doing something to that wall.
But the feedback's always been great on it, isn't it? People like the fact there's a different
to
route
do.
all the time, which is, the club love it.
Yeah.
And then coming up, some of the showcase stuff is, of course, varsity. So the first year students that don't know what that is, Alexa, what is varsity? Why should they be interested?
So varsity is a really fun day. Basically,
providing we win.
We always win.
Providing. Come on.
Not even a question anymore.
No, so...
Listen, pride before a fall.
Yeah, okay. So, in my time...
She's not lost her touch, is she?
In my time at university, we've gone from playing Kingston. It was just boring beating them every year. So we've gone over to Royal Holloway. And to be fair, now they can provide their own facilities as well. So this year it's back at Surrey, I believe?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah, this year it's back at Surrey. So...
No. Oh, no, it isn't.
The
No, it
next
isn't.
year
Sorry.
coming. The next year coming. Okay, so we're going to Royal Holloway. So why should you get a ticket to Royal Holloway? Because it's amazing. When you go and they've not even managed to get their own supporters out, and we come with buses and buses, and we smash them, and we just absolutely rinse them in their own game. And to be fair, when we went there the first year, their comms were incredible, and we really upped their game in terms. Like we upped our game in terms of comms because we saw what they could do. But we have got that history of it, and everyone knows you go to varsity because you go, even if you're not playing, you want to go and support your mate, you want to go and see them play, and it's just fun. It's a fun day out. You get to go trash Royal Holloway, take home the cup, go to Rubix afterwards. It's just the best night. Responsibly.
A couple of years ago, they had that campaign, "This pitch belongs to us," or something like that.
No, it was, what was the one?
We own this turf, something like that.
On our turf.
Oh,
yeah,
on
it's
our
something about their turf. I mean, we ruined their turf. Let's be honest
in the next day, and in my office, on my desk, there was a lump of turf, and it just said, "Not anymore." It was lovely done.
That wasn't me.
Someone give a microphone for Alexa to drop and just walk out now, please.
I've got to say thank you to our guests, Alexa Hughes, former VP Activity, Dan Jacobs, Hive Man, Gavin Baker, Manager of SSP. Tomorrow night, don't miss it. It is the climax in more ways than one. It is our final night of question time, and it's...
a big number way.
It's...
On our turf.
All right, okay. Let's try that again. Tomorrow night, it's the big finish. It's the big thrust as we push through. A big throbbing finale as we go through the voice zone. We go through union chair and we go through union president. It's a huge night. It's live in Rubix. It's live on YouTube. I'll be here with a whole load of guests. Be on Twitter. Have a great night. Peaceful drive home, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Robbing.